Our next guests are entrepreneurs, livestock producers, having served on many boards and committees between the two. And most importantly, my parents, Van and Kathy. Thanks for making time to be here to talk to us today.
Well, hi. Thanks for having us.
I'm Vance Neidig. Zach Miller is co-hosting with me.
How you doing, guys?
Very good.
And this is Touching Base with Van and Kathy Neidig. So, Van and Kathy, tell us a little bit about how you guys grew up. And you guys are both from Northeast Nebraska. Tell us about your early life.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Let's see. I grew up north of Madison. I went to District 48 Country School. It was a little over a half mile away from our house. We walked uphill both ways, there and back. Actually, at the time I was in grade school, I think for 5 of the 7.5 years or 8.5 years, I was the only boy, and there were between 3 and 5 kids in the school. Went to high school my freshman year, first time I ever went to town school. We grew a lot of alfalfa, corn, soybeans, just had a few cows. Had a few hogs early on. Always had some chickens. I grew up liking cattle more than row crop. I was in 4-H. I think I was the only one in our family that was in 4-H. I had horses. I started out in 4-H horse program and then moved on to the cattle. Didn't really do sports in high school. Played football for a little while when I was a freshman, and that was about it. Did track, I think, when I was a sophomore or junior. And essentially, I don't know, I wasn't a nerd. Madison High School wasn't really noted for anything ag, no FFA program, nothing like that. I probably spent more time around Battle Creek. And honestly, in high school, I spent a lot of time around Battle Creek. And so I had friends in both areas because my grandparents are from Battle Creek. Actually lived on the place we live on now. And, just kind of grew up fairly independent.
There's not any of the district schools left, is there?
No, all country schools in Nebraska have closed. My dad was a remarkable advocate for country schools. I have grown to realize that I truly believe the better education was in country schools because, we had 5 kids and a teacher.
Right.
And I went to high school and there were 40 kids in a classroom with a teacher, and we switched every hour, for 8.5 years. And I went to kindergarten. This is what's odd. My kindergarten lasted 6 months. I went all day.
Okay.
Or for half one semester, I went all day.
Right.
That was kind of unique to that country school. I don't know why, but we didn't go for half a day all year. We went for a full day for half the year.
That's a very unique experience. You had a lot more one-on-one time with the teachers, right?
Yeah, most of them probably didn't care for me, but
Well.
In my later years, I say my later years. So I was, by the time I was in 5th grade, I was our school maintenance man.
Oh, really?
I was the school janitorial crew. I did everything. I mean, I
had to put the corn cobs in the heater.
Yeah, or the
Or in
bathroom.
the
Yeah. It's a long story, but I mean, we had the whole time I was in grade school, our heating system was a furnace with a single register in the floor in the middle of the school room.
Oh, really?
In fact, what's really interesting or unique is the school I went to school in, the country school, was moved to the Madison County Fairgrounds.
Oh, really?
But my father, my grandfather, and all of my relatives went to that school. My nieces and nephews went to that school.
That's great.
So, but it's still, they retained it. They moved it down there. It's kind of got its old feel. Not quite the same as when I was going to school.
Right.
It was fun.
That's an awesome story, actually. I kind of missed I never went to a country school, but I knew a lot of people that did. And
I went for 2 years. It I think kindergarten, first grade, maybe second grade. I can't remember.
I think you're right. I think it's truly missed right now.
Well, you're taught how to learn. You're not just taught. You're taught how to learn.
Right.
But you had the opportunity to listen to the older kids as well.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you were learning above your age.
We were in first grade and hearing the seventh graders' lessons.
Right.
Which seems we talk a lot on our podcast between the two of us, and even it comes up on this touching base. A lot of times we talk about critical thinking, and that's what you learn at that level. When you have to have critical thinking, you have to be able to think. You haven't been taught this, but you're hearing it, so you have to think about it.
Oh yeah, and mathematics and reading and I was horrible at all of these classes in high school.
I was too. Don't worry.
I was bored, absolutely bored out of my mind by school. I think anything, and I hate to even refer to any success because I don't think we're very successful yet. But whatever I gained, I think a lot of it is because of that. I had to grow up quick and I had to learn.
Right.
And there wasn't an option. And truly, we never thought about it. You just didn't have those. You weren't put in the middle of issues, so you didn't deal with it. And,
you didn't have time to think about it. You always had something to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how about you, Mom? How was your childhood?
Well, I had a perfect childhood, and I was the favorite child. I grew up there was 8 kids in our family. Grew up east of Norfolk, grew up on a farm. It was more of a cattle, I don't want to say a cattle ranch, but we had cattle and we had horses growing up. I gravitated towards the horses, but I loved the cattle too. And we had Black Angus cattle, which was kind of fighting words when we first got together because Van didn't like Angus, but we got through it.
I converted her.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's where the Red Angus came in our operation, actually.
Right.
We compromised. But I did go
There was too much white on Simmentals back in those days. You guys are that old, so there was a lot of red and white Simmentals.
There was. It was
yellow and white.
They were like pintos.
Yellow, yeah, not even red.
They were like painted cattle. I wasn't used to that. But I went to Norfolk Catholic until my senior year. So that was kind of our oddity. My dad decided he did not want to pay the tuition anymore after my junior year. So I ended up going to Norfolk High my senior year, which was a lot of people, like my friends were like, oh my gosh, because I went from a class of like 47 kids to a class of 400 and some kids.
Right.
I think you're lying. You blame that on Grandpa, but you just wanted to have 2 different reunions every single year. So that's
which we go to 2 different reunions.
She has 2 reunions every year.
And I actually, our last reunion, which would have been, I'm not even going to say what year it was, but
It's a long time. 60, 70 year reunion.
I was actually instrumental in planning both of them. Well, I don't want to say instrumental, but I was help. I helped plan actually both of the class reunions this time around. But no, I think going to the Norfolk High was kind of a good experience for me. It didn't bother me that there was more people. I guess I feel I was well brought up in my family and with my life and with 4-H and the different things that I've done. So I wasn't nervous at all about going to Norfolk High. When I got over there, I literally needed 1 class to graduate because Norfolk Catholic required more credits to graduate. So once I got over to Norfolk High, I literally needed 1 class to graduate. So I got to fill my days with fun classes,
Partying.
extracurricular activities.
Clearly never causing trouble.
No,
Yeah, never.
no, never. although I was very good friends with the principal there. For some reason, I was always in his office, but he did love me. He definitely loved me.
That's
I
funny.
was
I
one of
knew
his
our
favorite-
principal quite well too, but
2 peas in a pod.
don't know if I'd call it friends.
But no, seriously, I got to take like an ag class, and that's something that would have been offered at Norfolk Catholic. I got to take some different art classes that Norfolk Catholic didn't offer. I did take a psychology class and I will say it's been long enough now. I did get kicked out of that class. And I still don't understand. I mean, for the life of me, I have no idea why she kicked me out of that class. And I was kind of like,
Psychosis.
I really wanted to take this class. I mean, obviously I didn't need it.
She needed a student, not a case study.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Be nice, fans. Be nice.
That's interesting
But
because
it's true.
the only class I ever failed, was architectural drawing,
Really?
which is what I've essentially done my whole life,
Right.
is design. And I just find that unique.
Right. That is very unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the ag class something new at that time?
No, I don't think so. It was a large class, and because of my background at the time, a lot of those kids that were in that ag class I knew. So, yeah, but it definitely wasn't. It was Rick Crozier, and actually later on, we ended up starting an FFA program in the Battle Creek High School,
Right.
and
I did not know Rick Crozier was your ag teacher.
yeah,
I know-
that's how I originally knew him.
He's way older than you thought.
Evidently.
Jesus, Rick's old.
Because do they still
Because
offer an ag?
Rick's kid, Jason, me and Jason were in the same class, ended up being really good friends. And yeah, I had I knew Jason had older siblings, but yeah, I for some reason, and maybe I heard that. I guess I never knew that he was your ag teacher also. I never heard that. Well, that makes more sense how that program got started and worked through better then.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, the ag class,
'Cause
and
you were really instrumental in that when I was in high school, getting that FFA program started with Battle Creek, tied in with Norfolk, getting a chapter for Battle Creek through Norfolk, basically.
Correct. And I was never in FFA. Now I was in 4-H my entire life. I went, but I did the Stanton County Fair because we were in Stanton County, east of Norfolk. But we knew a lot of kids, and Van was never in FFA either. But I knew people my age that were in FFA, and then I knew some of our friends that had older kids that were in the FFA program, and that some of the things that they got to experience and do was like, wow, why doesn't Battle Creek have this? And we're an agricultural based school. We really need to, and Van growing up, he went to Madison, but the Battle Creek had a
Battle Creek
pretty
was huge
awesome
in
FFA.
Oh, yeah.
And so some of those people I knew, and their program was really great in Battle Creek. And then all of a sudden, no program when my kids were there. And I thought, they need this opportunity. So I did go, I went to the school board, and the school board would not come up with the money to have their own chapter. So then I compromised, or I asked, well, if I could, can the kids travel to Norfolk and do something with the Norfolk FFA chapter? And then I got to talking to Rick and back and forth. And then Rick allowed Battle Creek to have basically a Battle Creek chapter under the Norfolk chapter.
So did it go away because of funding in the first place? 'Cause you said it was big.
There used to be an ag program when I was in elementary school, but then
I don't know if it went away because of funding. I think it went away because there was some troubles with finding enough instructors.
Oh.
And that is,
it was convenient. And honestly, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, agriculture was an embarrassment,
Yeah. like culture, like it was like a
Yeah, and I mean, I can.
Well, it's kind of looked down on. I mean, when
Yeah.
if you were in ag, you weren't. I mean,
And it still is to a point. I refer to when I was on the state fair board. One of our board members at the time was Harvey Perlman, Chancellor at UNL. Which, my opinion of Harvey Perlman's pretty low. I mean, maybe as low as anybody in the state. And the reason being is I never met a man in my life that was ever so open about total disregard and disdain for agriculture.
really.
But
Well, during Harvey Perlman's reign, he changed the ag college at the University of Nebraska to, they call it Kasner, which is the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources.
Yeah.
Basically getting rid of because it used to be the College of Ag, right? University of Nebraska,
College
at
of Ag.
Lincoln College of Ag. Like that was it. And so they made it so that they don't even call it the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources. They just call it Kasner. Like they've just gotten rid of the word ag. It's in the acronym, but nobody really uses that term anymore.
So there's, over the years being in different, on boards and in different organizations and stuff, it amazes me, sincerely amazes me that agriculture is looked down upon. I mean, it's odd to me. I don't know, part of me thinks, I hate to say this, but part of me thinks it's jealousy.
Oh, I would definitely say that's part of it.
Because people think, well, these farmers are driving these $1 million combines and land, they're buying $1.5 million quarters of land and blah, 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 blah. And yet the people that are making that comment, at 1 minute after 5 o'clock, they are leaving their job.
Right.
And done for the day.
And done for the day. They might mow a little, maybe, but they relax. They're done. And so
they go have fun on the weekends.
and they have fun and they have boats and they golf and they and I'm not saying farmers and ranchers don't do that, but
Which are fun though. Is our vacations growing up, and it's most ag is you're going to a show or you're going to which is fun. It's a lot of fun. We make it fun, but you're still working at vacation basically, and you're doing your industry. Whereas these other people, depending on what industry they're in, they're going on vacation has nothing to do with their industry. I mean, I see it that way.
It's also amazing. You say it's looked down upon, and I think that's a crazy aspect or a crazy thought because how important agriculture is to just society living.
don't bitch about farming with your mouth full.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But it's weird how this and I think it's propagated honestly by politics.
Oh, for sure.
The media, and it baffles me because I don't know anybody in agriculture that expects undue respect. I don't know anybody. What they do expect is they do expect human respect, and
As you should.
anybody should.
Yeah, everybody.
But yeah, I don't know how to term it. I just learned to deal
It's
with it and.
crazy because you said you're not successful. You're a very humble man. I would say you guys are very successful people. So I mean, I would say so, in my opinion.
You don't know the bills and the debts and the.
It looks good, Van. It looks good from the outside in.
I respect you. Let's put it that way.
I see.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
So going back to, we were talking about starting the FFA chapter. Did you see? Were you excited that? I mean, we were all gone by the time it happened, but now Battle Creek's got their own chapter. They are doing it.
And they're
does that make you
growing?
And they're growing. They've
Yeah.
got an ag teacher. They've got an ag program. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like, yes, I started this, we got the ball rolling, and we did this, or are you a little upset that hey, now you guys are figuring this out when we tried to do it, or because I can see both sides of it. I see both sides of that.
Definitely don't. I don't. My first thought isn't, oh, wow, I did this. I mean, that's not my thought. But my thought is, my dad always taught me growing up that I mean, you can't just stand aside. I mean, if you don't stand there and complain about stuff, you have to get yourself involved, kind of like voting. You can't complain about what's going on in politics unless you vote. You got to vote. But anyway, so this is kind of the same thing. So it pays to get involved. I mean, it took a long time. Yeah. And I mean, the kids, they started the program. It wasn't great.
No, it wasn't great, but
I mean,
I look at it as I wouldn't trade those years for my life. Some of my best friends of my lifetime are from that chat. From that, I mean, I became phenomenally good friends with Jason Crozier, Clint Whipple. These people are lifelong friends that I probably would have never, I maybe would have met in the future or whatever. But at that time, I mean, that's why I met him. I met him through that. I got to go to nationals. I got to go to Louisville. I got to go to the Nebraska convention. I mean, had tons of fun doing that. Yeah, you competed in some stuff. You went to some seminars. You went to stuff like that. But it just afforded me, I mean, in my opinion, it afforded me great things. And we all had fun. There was only 5 or 6, maybe 10 of us at the time between me, Justin, the Palmers. Who else was that? Tiffany was in that. Ben Coover. There's a few of them. We had quite a few people, and we'd all go over there and we did our meetings. We had our own chapter, but we were a part of the Norfolk chapter. So we were allowed to we're officers. I was an officer on the Norfolk team. Some of the other people were officers, and Tiff was an officer. I mean, and Crozier was really, really, really good about it. I mean, he didn't treat us like second fiddles to us kids. I don't know if maybe another way it was, but we never felt like we were second class as a Battle Creek chapter in Norfolk.
That's good. That's good to hear.
But no, I like, so we got the opportunity to spend time with Dawson Amick this last weekend, and he is in the Battle Creek chapter right now. But he was giving us a little rundown. There's like 60 kids in this chapter right now.
Which is bigger than...
In Battle Creek?
Yeah, that's bigger than Norfolk was when we were there.
Yeah.
With two chapters, basically, and there wasn't... I don't think there were 60 kids when we were there.
Battle Creek's kind of growing too, right? A little bit?
The school seems to be...
The school is, but there's a lot of...
A lot of people opt in.
Yeah, a lot of opt-in. From Madison... A lot from Madison.
Some coming from Norfolk, too. I know that.
Some from Norfolk, some from Pierce. And, of course, Tilden, Elkhorn Valley, Meadow Grove area. There's a lot of opt-in, which is good. I mean, that's okay.
Good school system. Yep. And, I mean, there's a lot of people in that the city of Battle Creek is, very nice and, clean.
Yep.
They don't seem to have a lot of problems, and it's a bedroom community to Norfolk, as you say, but no, Dawson was telling us that
I've never heard that
have
before. You say bedroom community?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that. So that means they live in Battle Creek, work in Norfolk.
Right. I've never heard that. I like that term.
I would venture to guess I bet half the population of Battle Creek's a bedroom community in Norfolk.
I'm sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I've
never heard that before. That's a nice term. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Dawson was telling us they actually are getting cows. They got a building. They got pins.
So they did get the building. So the building is actually happening.
Yeah,
because I assumed it wasn't actually going to happen.
It's being built as we speak. He said it's up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was on the bond.
So, I don't know how that's going to work.
I will say with full disclosure, I voted against the bond.
Absolutely. So did I.
Yep.
I've always believed you never take the first bid anyways. They needed upgrades in the elementary, and the elementary's still not done. Like whoever they went with,
they said they
did
were
a terrible job. They bid it to me way too high and still didn't get done on time because all that was supposed to be done before the school season this year, and they even pushed school back in the fall, and they're still not done. And I think that's unexcusable in my opinion, but and that's part of the reason that you turn down a bid like that. But I guess whatever, they wanted it, and
well, part of the problem with a lot of that kind of stuff, and this goes to what I've learned over the years on boards and public stuff. And the Battle Creek School District and the $20 million plus additional bond that was passed on top of another $20 million plus. I mean, it's all based on the fact that nobody's spending their own money.
Yeah.
It's and the Battle Creek School District's got a lot of land and not a lot of houses.
That's right.
So the bulk of that money is coming from landowners, ag owners,
Yeah.
farmers, stuff
Yep.
like that.
So I'm happy that they're actually
Yeah,
pouring
it's-
it into their ag program and their like it sounds like they've added on to their shop program, and to me that's important stuff for these kids to learn. That helps them with their critical thinking, as you guys were talking about.
Maybe the new track surface and the LED scoreboard, and
I think the track surface
But it looks
was
nice.
probably needed.
Looks nice.
It was old, but that's stuff that you can add on. That's stuff that you can vote on later. Or again, your first bid is always going to be your highest bid, and people just don't understand that. But the school was where I graduated high school, basically the elementary school. So it definitely needed some upgrades. But I think you can split some of that stuff out easier and deal with it. But
Yeah, it's forward progress, and it hurts no matter what.
Yep.
But
and my biggest, also my other issue was with it. We were in, obviously this was in 2018, I think is when we voted on that. 2018 or 2020. I can't remember. 2022. Right? I don't even remember.
2020 or 2021.
I think it was 2020. Was it during COVID?
I think it was
20?
22. I'm pretty sure the bond passed in 22.
Oh yeah, because it was
'Cause it was
after
a mid-
COVID. Because all the,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was midterms.
like
It was during midterms.
it was the huge increase in
Yeah.
building materials and stuff. right at
we
that
were
time.
already at a really bad economic standpoint, and it was only going to get worse. And that's kind of where I was like, push this off a little bit and see if we
Well,
can get out
again,
of
it
this.
goes back to they're not spending their own money.
Yeah.
And anybody, any commercial or not commercial, and I don't care what any private enterprise does, any public entity, be it the city of Norfolk and some of their fiasco going on here, Battle Creek School, whatever the case is, the last 3 years were absolutely. I'm on the Battle Creek Rural Fire Board. 3.5, 4 years ago, we had an opportunity to do some things. And I pushed really, really hard to do it really, really fast. Nobody else could really understand, and I'm not real good at explaining things,
Yeah.
probably. And since then, and I told him, I said, if we don't do it now, it's going to be unaffordable for a while.
Right.
And
Now look where it is.
now look where it's at. Now, I will tell you that I do believe nationally, we're coming into a scenario which I really felt we were going to anyway. Going back to the Nebraska State Fair scenario, the national construction industry had collapsed, essentially collapsed.
Explain when that was for if somebody's not
2008,
listening.
9, and 10.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but that's when we moved. When you were
I
involved,
don't mean to be jumping ahead.
that's fine. But
You're fine.
I'm just for people that maybe don't know. That's when the Nebraska State Fair moved from Lincoln, Nebraska, and it had to go somewhere. And you were instrumental in figuring that out. And they went to Grand Island, Nebraska.
correct.
Okay.
And what happened was every commercial builder was out of work, essentially, from the dirt movers to the HVAC to the electricians to the builders to the building manufacturers. Literally nothing going on. Mark my words, in the next 18 months, you will think I'm a prophet because it's happening again.
Yeah, I can
And
see
it's
that too.
already started. And so what bothered me, and I called a few people on the Battle Creek deal, which was waste of time, because they didn't want to know. They didn't want to understand. They were focused on, by golly, we want this and we want it now.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear it though either. They just
But
want.
at the end of the day, they literally could have done everything for literally
Pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on
Yeah.
the dollar.
And
It'll
that's
come
what
to pass.
people don't understand. And that goes back to where we talk a lot about, Zach and I, and with other guests, that if you're going to vote, you need to be an informed voter and not stop voting with your heart, vote with your mind, your brain. But then that goes back into critical thinking too, and some people just can't figure that out. So
But you can always vote, and if it's not coming out of your paycheck, what do you care?
it
That
comes
too.
out of your paycheck. It comes out of everybody's paycheck eventually. Whether that's what, and a lot of people don't understand. It's going to hit you. It doesn't matter if you own land or you don't own land.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. You're going to pay for it in income taxes. You're going to pay for it in milk, eggs, bacon, whatever you're buying, because nobody can't buy something or doesn't buy anything. Your price is going to go up. Your dollar is worthless. Your dollar goes down. It's just, people don't understand. They just don't see it. And it's a smaller, maybe it's because they think, it's only a few pennies or it's 50 cents. Well, 50 cents times 10,000, that's a lot. If you're doing it 10,000 times at 50 cents,
But that's the same people that think that while they supported $15 and $20 an hour for McDonald's workers, are fascinated about the technology of no employees at McDonald's.
Yeah, right.
Kiosks. And they don't.
that
they can't,
or a $20 value meal.
yeah,
that
they can't
too.
put two and two together.
No, it's yeah.
It's not ironic. It's not irony. It's what happens.
Common
Yeah.
economics.
Yep.
I don't think people also understand how hard it hits self-employed people, entrepreneurs, all the different taxes that like they just have their job and they get to go do their thing. And when all these things change, like it is right now, people like you, people like me, we have to pay, all the income tax. We have to pay employee tax. We have to pay property tax. We have to like double, triple times what you pay at your house. It's like, yeah. So I get a little frustrated too when it comes to some of that.
So how did a row cropper and a black Angus breeder, one from Madison, one from Norfolk, meet each other?
You really want to hear this story?
The real
I
question
think you've heard it. I think you've heard it.
I haven't.
Well, Zach hasn't heard, and
I haven't
some people
heard it.
might not know.
The hard-hitting questions on touching base.
I think
She searched
he
for
must have heard
years and
it.
finally found me.
Yeah, he doesn't tell me. He doesn't tell me nothing. We like to hear it live.
Speaking of hard hitting questions. So when we first met, we actually met at a 4-H dance, and it was down at the Madison County Fairgrounds. I went with some high school friends, and technically, I don't think I was old enough to drive. I think one of my friends, because I'm the youngest in my class, so I wasn't very old. But Van was a chaperone, imagine that. And he was taking tickets at the dance. We were walking
And that's
in.
pretty much the end of the story.
Yeah.
We're going to move on.
That's funny.
So we were walking through, and for whatever reason, he caught me, and
She was cute.
He was
Right.
I'm not stupid.
Right.
I mean, come on. She was cute.
Right. Exactly.
He was.
I see a good cow in the distance. I go after the cow.
Oh yeah. That just makes me so feel really. That's heartfelt there, right there, man.
You should. That's a big compliment from me.
That's love right there.
Good looking cow, but yeah.
I didn't mean it that way.
But no, he was. I made some comment about having a fresh bale of straw back in.
I thought we had
horse
just discussed
stall.
that was the end of that conversation.
No, I don't think so. So how do we mute Vance?
Anyway,
She slapped me.
back to the hard hitting question.
Let's just get it out in the open. She slapped me.
And I went on to the dance.
First time we
with
ever
my
met.
friends.
That's great.
And I don't give up on a fight.
That's what I've heard.
Back
And when
around
she-
2, 3, 4,
when
5,
she-
and 6.
And when she said I do, I won.
Exactly. I like that story. That's a good one.
But
So 4-H
Yeah.
brought you guys together, and in essence, that's how you met.
Essentially.
And that obviously had a huge impact in your guys' life. Obviously, with me and my two brothers, had a big impact in our lives. We were in 4-H our whole life. Mom was very instrumental in being created a new 4-H chapter, right? Our
Yes.
4-H chapter was a brand new 4-H chapter.
Club.
You helped,
Yep.
club, yeah,
Club.
4-H club. And you kind of started that and ramrodded that and did that type of stuff.
Yep. So it was me and another Jody Palmer.
Yep.
So you kids, and they call, if you don't have a 4-H club, they call you an orphan, or it's a term that 4-H doesn't really like, but you're an orphan because you don't have like an actual club.
A group to belong to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's along the same lines as a 4-H chapter or a FFA chapter. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm. You
have
meet
your,
and have
officers and stuff like that.
For the people that may not know, can you guys explain the difference between the two, the 4-H and the FFA?
FFA is high school aged only, up to 21. 4-H starts at 8 years old. And you can get into younger stuff, which I don't even remember what it's called, but like there's versions that are the county fairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's Clover Buds
for
4-H. And so 4-H, 4-H involves a lot of different, of course, FFA does too, but
A lot
4-H
less.
is sewing.
FFA is basically 100% ag.
Yeah.
4-H is going to do your consumer sciences and stuff like that also.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Baking, sewing, pictures.
Gotcha.
Things
Art.
like that.
Building.
So-
There's
I
going to be.
didn't realize that.
Yeah. So have you ever been into the 4-H exhibit building at the Madison County Fair or any county fair
No.
or state fair or anything? So
But
they-
you're going to now.
Yes.
you're going to
Yes.
have to.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's
yes.
a lot of cool.
I already told Vance I was gonna. Don't worry.
It's,
Yeah.
it's shorter, but
That's
there's
why
a
we're
lot
doing
of
this,
cool
so
stuff.
I can learn and get educated.
And so these kids, obviously on the cattle side, it's easy to see our project. It's understandable. Like you don't have to do a lot of paperwork or anything like that, pictures. But like, so if somebody does let's say they're a woodworking project, or so like some people
Or
sewing, rebuilding tractors, cake. They bake cake. They bake
Models,
baked goods,
rocketry.
models. They take
That's awesome.
pictures the whole time from beginning to end. Pictures. They
Of their projects.
take a report about it. It teaches you different, which we never really did any of that stuff, but teaches you different things about like how much money you're spending on this, what's the cost when you do this, what's blah blah blah, and you document basically everything, and then you get judged on how you did and get a ribbon, and
That's
it
awesome.
just teaches you a lot.
Someone's never invited me. That's the problem.
Okay.
I didn't know you had to be invited to a county fair.
Well, consider yourself invited.
I mean, Luda's going to be there this year, so
Yeah, well, Nelly was there last year, and I didn't go either. So
I wasn't a big Nelly fan,
Right.
but I'm probably going to go for Luda.
Yeah, I probably will too.
for who?
But
Ludacris.
yeah, I don't even know who that is.
We'll play
so.
some. We'll play some for you after the podcast.
That's okay.
Luda.
But no, we started a 4-H club because there was a couple families that we were kind of beef families, and it was just we started the Hard Drive 4-H club back in the day, when
And
hard
our
drives-
logo was a floppy
disc.
There was no CDs really back then at that time.
Does that
No.
age us?
that
No,
ages,
not really.
about when the 4-H club started. It was the big sign that we made to hang in the barn was a floppy disk.
Purple. Our colors were purple and green.
Purple, green. Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
I didn't know that.
There might be
remember
some
it.
people that might not know what a floppy disk is,
Okay.
but you know.
But
we
yeah,
do.
and my kids were the youngest out of all the kids that were.
The Palmers were the same age as us. I'm older than Chelsea.
But JT was younger than anybody. JT
Oh,
was the
yeah,
last
JT was the
4-H'er.
youngest. Yep.
Yeah, JT was the last 4-H'er of the original families that we started it, and then I had some people at work. So this is a cool story about 4-H, and I'm totally gonna say this. At work, I had a coworker that her son was kind of quiet and kind of shy and was needing to do things, and I said, well, let's do 4-H. JT's still in 4-H. It's literally just JT in the 4-H club, because everybody had pretty much aged out, and I didn't have any other new 4-H'ers. So I said, why don't Will come and he can be in 4-H? And I'm kind of a hard nose. I mean, Vance said he didn't do many other projects, but I made him do like speeches, presentations.
Oh yeah, we did that type of stuff.
Things like that, because that's lifelong experience. I mean, look at him, he's talking in front of people.
Right.
And, but anyway, this little 4-H'er, his name is Will, and we'll tell the story. His neighbor gave him a snake, like a big, long, called him Gordy. a big snake.
Oh.
It was
And-
a python, a Burmese python,
Yeah.
or yellow python, or something like that.
I don't even know what
Is
it
a snake.
was.
I absolutely despise snakes. I'm scared to death of snakes. I'm irrationally afraid of them. So it is what it
But
is.
Will had this snake, and his mom, when she was young, she showed rabbits. So she got him a rabbit, and then I was like, no, he's got to do speech. He's got to do a presentation, something like that.
Of course, the snake ate the rabbit.
I was actually going to ask that. It's kind of a bad combination.
I know, you're surprised Kathy didn't get him into mice. You know?
But yeah, no, Will was like petrified. He was like, I don't need, what am I gonna, I said, Will, you love your snake. No, I mean, nobody knows, like, this kid would talk to me about his snake and about, the good things about snakes. And I'm not as scared of snakes as Vance, but I don't know anything about snakes. So I said, do a presentation on your snake. I mean, people, that's good information to share with people. So the very first time he did his presentation, I literally had to go to bat with the fair board and the 4-H people because they were not going to let him show his snake because it was too risky.
Risky?
Well, the snake might get loose.
Oh my gosh.
They were scared of snakes.
But yeah,
Evidently.
but at that time, the Madison County Fair would have the reptile garden, or they'd bring in the axe that would have.
I think that was after Will actually. The very first year, they
would have
that.
had to have had. They had
No.
gators and stuff
No.
when I was younger.
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so.
I don't think so. But anyway, they ended up letting him do this presentation.
K-Nap
but
was the one that freaked out. She was.
Oh.
It was-
Well,
she
she's 4-H.
freaked out.
yeah,
That's not the fair board, so that's not the event. I'm talking about they would bring
I
in
had to go to the.
entertainment acts
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that would do those.
Yeah, they had a
they'd
paid
have.
act.
Yeah, they would do that. So if you're gonna do that, I think it's the same. I mean,
you can do a presentation. But anyway, so I literally went to bat, and Kelly, his mom, I went to the 4-H, I went to the fair board, pulled everybody together. They finally let him do it, and there was a special assigned fair board member to come in to the room during the presentation.
just in case the snake got away.
She was a
Snake
snake
wrangler.
wrangler.
Was it our sheriff that had to come in, or who was the one that did it?
It was Jeannie Teese.
Yeah.
Jeannie Teese was the one
That'd have
that
been a lot
came
better
in.
if it was our sheriff. That'd have been
And I'm
really
like,
funny.
I think it'll be fine.
I don't think Todd
It'll
would have
be
done
fine. I don't know that Todd was even on the board at that
No,
time.
he wasn't.
He was already off.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't on yet.
Yeah, wasn't on. But anyway, okay. So long story short, this is Will Abler, who now has Real Reptiles.
He's got a
Do you
reptile
know-
business.
Awesome story. Yeah, so he presented at. So my son goes to Montessori, and he presented to the class there.
That is
That's how he started.
that's awesome.
that is my
That's a great
4-H'er.
story. That's a great story.
I'm super
He
proud
was
of that
really
story.
shy.
Actually.
I mean, really,
Quiet, very quiet.
very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. Good
reserved.
kid.
Reserved.
Very nice kid. Very
the
nice
beginning.
kid.
Yeah.
He still is very quiet.
He had one day with
actually. I
Kathy,
mean,
and he's like,
very
"Oh my
nice.
gosh,
But
I
anyway,
just want to talk to get rid of her."
So not only, and then, and he went to state the first year. He got to take that snake and presentation to the state fair, which is kind of a big deal.
For sure.
I mean, for that age. And then it wasn't long after that, like he loves reptiles. I mean, and he's very knowledgeable in them and always was. And it's just kind of his thing in life. But then he started hanging around the reptile paid act on the grounds. And they would always let him help hold things while they were doing their presentation and stuff like that. And their relationship grew to the point where next thing you know, they gave Will a baby alligator.
Wow.
Steve. I think he called him Steve. I'm pretty sure he called him Steve. But we had Steve on the radio station. Not that Steve really talked. It was Stevie.
You
The
sure
last
didn't
5
talk?
years,
Yeah.
the last 5 years he's been living in the Norfolk
but we
sewers.
brought him in.
Nobody's seen him, but
No, the whole 4-H club.
He's loving the new the Brown Water Rapids.
Oh, yeah.
I got the whole 4-H club. We were able to go to US 92, and they had us on the radio, the whole 4-H club, and we talked about different things. And obviously, the alligator was a big thing to talk about. It was super fun.
he's currently 27 feet long, living under the old Alco building.
That's funny.
Honestly, I don't know if he still has the alligator come to his presentation.
He's still got Gordy. You said Gordy, right?
Yeah, Gordy is
Gordy's
the
still-
original.
Yep.
The
So,
long.
the
He's
long
pretty. He's a
white
lot
and
bigger
yellow,
now.
right?
Yep.
Yep. Still got him. Yep.
Yep.
That's really cool.
That was original. But and yeah, here we go. So 4-H is a great program. I mean, if there's any parents, looking to get their kids involved in something, and the thing about it is, like, he would have not done that without somebody pushing him to
Right.
do that originally, right? So I was the push,
And it is the extra events that make the big difference on the 4-H side. It's not just the easy stuff, like you said, the presentations. I kind of forgot that we did all that, but we did. They actually made me. So I had broke my arm in the middle of summer and had surgery in the middle of the county fair, and there was a livestock judging or something. It was maybe an interview contest or it was a presentation of some sort, but I had got out of surgery and had to get back down to Madison to do
his
whatever the event is. I
presentation.
don't even remember what it was. Resume contest, maybe, I don't remember, but I had to do it. They made me do it.
I can assure you he wasn't this happy about it.
I'm sure.
So-
I'm sure he
I
wasn't.
definitely was.
So he, and it was Dr. Stefan, who was the orthopedic.
Yeah, I can't remember he was kind of an Australian guy or
Yeah.
something. I don't remember his name.
Stevens. Anyway, I can see him. So Vance was telling him, I got to do this. I got this speech I got to do, and so I can't be super groggy or whatever.
At the time, anesthesia to me would mess me up for a long period of time.
Anesthesia, no painkillers.
So
No, but like afterwards,
Yeah.
Right.
like I would get nauseous for hours on end after I've already been woken up and dealt with it.
yeah. So Vance, they kind of went lightly on it. And the nurse told me Vance woke up just as they were re-breaking his arm.
Oof.
Literally.
Woke up.
Well, doesn't
Woke
sound
up
fun.
just as they were, because they had to re-break it because
Right.
it had fused
to reset
wrong.
it.
They had to reset it. And So, and then, as any good nurse does, they bring that child to mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I felt bad for him.
That doesn't
But
sound fun
he
at
was,
all.
He was definitely in pain, and his face was as red as his shirt he's got on right now when he came to me. And the doctor felt horrible, but
Right.
it is what it is. He was trying to do the right thing, and so let that be a lesson. Don't ask for lighter.
Right. Don't ask for lighter anesthesia.
Just ask for more to be on the safe side.
Don't make him go do a resume contest when he's getting out of surgery.
speech
Maybe
contest.
we can do that. We'll just take the day off.
Right.
We'll just
Right.
call it good.
Yeah.
Scratch. I guess you could have just scratched the day at the fair. I don't think they were going to move the fair to a
Right.
different day
Yeah.
for you.
I mean, it was kind of a big deal, but apparently not that big a deal.
Oh, yeah, and I don't even
Couldn't
remember how you
reschedule
did.
around me.
It was such a big deal. I don't even remember how he did.
That's funny.
I do remember him, the nurses bringing him to me, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do remember that. That was bad.
All right. We'll move on a little bit. So growing up, starting a family, got together, got married, started a cow herd, obviously, together. Dad was a livestock equipment salesman, basically.
Basically.
Okay. Go on.
I don't know. I started selling livestock equipment in 1979. Then went to work for the company based out of Belle Plaine, Iowa. Traveled extensively for the first 10 years. Extensively. And when I say extensively, 150 nights in a motel or more.
Yeah.
And I just got, I don't know why, I just got involved in lots of different things all over the country, all over the United States. And kind of got a passion for buildings and working setups and logistics of movements. And that's been, and I started designing equipment based on, I can't, I don't know how to
Real
explain
world,
it.
real world use.
Seeing them actually
Like
be
functionality type? Like,
Yeah. And I saw things differently, than other people, I guess is the best way to say it. But probably more than anything else is I used them. And I understood fabrication. I understood manufacturing. I loved plants. Plants as in fabrication plants.
I know what you mean.
He's like, if we go into a fab shop, which we've toured a lot together as family, with businesses and stuff between us boys and dad and mom, and all of us are kind of like, oh yeah, that's good. That's a cool laser. That's a cool brake. Dad's like, oh, this is awesome.
So one of the things, early on when I was doing this is I learned to listen. And of course our current partner, business partner, he laughs at me because I always gravitate to the guys on the floor.
Yep.
Working.
Most knowledgeable, probably.
Yes. And very seldom ever really could give a tinker's what about the guy on the second floor looking out the window.
Right. Right.
Because they are theoretical, and they're financial, and they're experts in everything but the right way to do things.
Right.
Where the guys on the floor, the workers, typically don't get respect. They're the ones who understand, or should, and the good ones do. And so I designed a lot of things that way. It kind of gravitated into, I don't have a real good ability to explain things as we go. I'm more of I'll do it and show you at the end. So I started designing items and producing the items, and then taking them to the different plants or people and trying to get somebody to pick up on it. And while it's not been very profitable, obviously, over the years, and it really hasn't.
You spent since 79, so you spent 40 years designing other companies' equipment.
Right.
And not your own.
But the fun part of it was that they would see things they hadn't seen before.
Right.
The difficult part was I would design it here, and I was always looking for the newest, best. I mean, again, I started long before CAD programs. I mean, everything was done on paper and rulers and pencils and templates that had the drawings of crowding tubs and alleyways and squeeze chutes, and I'd get out of the box and I'd come up with something. Well, then the hard part of that was, the really frustrating part was when I'd take it to and one of the companies would pick up on it. Now I've helped with, and these names don't mean anything to you, but I've got to know most of our competitors.
Right.
Actually, our current competitors are good friends of mine.
Yeah.
That I've worked for or helped over the years in different scenarios. But it's funny because when we'd come up with something, or I'd come up with something, and when I say I understand, it's a lot of it our family. Vance, his two brothers, and Kathy. I mean, it was all of us, based on what worked, what was simple, what made sense in our world.
There's a lot of things on our shoots that for moms came up with ideas and stuff like that. I mean, there's just little things that you wouldn't even notice, that
just things to make things
100%
easier,
from her running a shoot.
better.
Right.
Well, right. When you use the product that you're building, when you actually use it, and when you're in use, you're like oh, wouldn't it be nice if there was like a hook here, or wouldn't it be nice if this handle did this, or and then
or it happens from somebody getting cracked in the head 43 times. I'm like, maybe we need to fix this.
So
Maybe it should work differently.
It evolved to the point where the difficult part was if I would come up with something new and we had something, a new product, I could show it to the company and they liked it, but then I had to redesign it so it could be built within their walls.
In their plant. Or
in their plant. And they didn't have a lot of the tools and the neat stuff that Vance talks about. They didn't have that. And so, we're not going to make our own angles. So we have to, use an off-the-shelf angle or channel or, whatever the case is. And then that evolved into the thing that I still to this day, I enjoy more than anything. And that's walking through a plant and looking at their drop. Drop is pieces of material that are not used.
Right.
So it goes
goes in the scrap.
Goes in the scrap.
Goes to new corn, gets remelted, basically.
And I love finding things that can be utilized as a feature that's literally thrown away.
Right.
And that probably helped me more kind of evolve. So as of today, and I say this because I don't do it anymore, but as of today, I probably have done this with more companies than maybe anybody else. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
I would definitely agree with that.
I probably had more success doing, and a lot of people think I'm very, very successful at it, and I'm telling you, it don't pay shit. There's a bad word, but it's been fun.
Yeah,
but
it's a massive footprint. It doesn't
You
mean that doesn't
enjoyed it.
equate.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it equates to whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big footprint.
But we've garnered the respect of a lot of our peers and a lot of our competitors. And when we started Lakeside, I'll never forget the comment I made to our partner, and he said, "We need to do this because Kathy wanted to do it, the boys wanted to do it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I just did not want to be part of that. I didn't want to fabricate anything." However, the comment I made to our partner, I said, I tell you what. I said, both of us are too damn old to ever dream of being the biggest.
Right.
We're just not going to be the biggest.
Right.
I said, but I tell you what, everybody wants to do this. I'll agree on one thing. We will, by God, be the best.
Right.
And so we created Lakeside with that mentality. Many, many times I've told certain customers or potential customers, and actually a lot of them weren't customers after I said this, but I made the comment, and I still would make it this way, and I don't mean it the way some people take it, but I mean it sincerely. And that is, and I say these words, you don't understand.
Right.
I choose to make shoots. I don't have to make shoots.
Right.
So don't bore me with, I respect your opinion. If you can't afford it, hey, not a problem. I get it. No, move on. I'll move on. Life's good. So that's the way I want to approach it. The building design deal, that's my passion. The state fair stuff, county fair stuff, college building, anything.
Worked on, went and spoke with kill plants and stuff too, right?
Oh yeah. Funny story about that. I was invited. I was asked to come up to Dakota City, Dakota Dunes, South Dakota, headquarters of Tyson, original IBP.
Yep. And
it was kind of a clandestine call, I guess, in the beginning. Yeah. It seemed odd, and the guy said, there's a lot of issues going on here, but we really want you to come up. We've heard you or the guy, we need to talk to you. So I go up there and, walk into a room that's, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to guess it's 10 to 15,000 square feet of absolutely open, clear span open room. Offices around the edges, massive tables in the center, all filled with drawings. And they were redoing their flagship plant at South Sioux City or Dakota City. And they were doing a new kill line, and a new unload and line to the kill floor.
Which, and if people don't realize, it sounds when we say kill line, it sounds terrible, but the idea is to make these things as comfortable as possible for the animal, because nobody wants the animal to be uncomfortable. Like
we are going to call it what it is, though.
No, I know. I just want people. Yeah. I want people to be informed on this. That yes, I mean,
people work hard
at make it as easy as possible, as quick as possible,
humane, efficient, and safe.
Yeah. Right.
And so I go up there and there was several guys. I have no idea who they were now. Maybe they're not around. I don't know. Anyway, we go in there and, you know, he said, here's the drawings. But he said, now listen, you have to understand, these drawings were made by Temple Grandin. And we're not happy with them. We don't think they'll work well. And we can't let the world know we're not using it because we have to have her rubber stamp on this. Do you want to take a look at it? So I looked at it and I said, well, ain't going to work. Yeah. I mean, I told him, I said, you're right. I mean, it's not going to work. Well, how would you change it? And so I said, well, and he handed me a pen, an ink pen. And I said, well, this isn't going to erase. Doesn't matter. You know, this, you know, what, show us what you, so I redrew it and I sketched it on the drawing. And the drawing was as big as your table, as your desk here. And there were multiple ones. And we kind of went around all of them and got through the whole thing.
And it was like different sections of what was going to be. Yeah.
And I said, well, you know, I wouldn't do this. I'd do this. And I said, I've had this idea for a long time. This is what I'd do. I'd use a double gate system and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we kind of go through the whole thing. And they're like, oh my God, you know, that's crazy.
Right.
You know, that's good. And we'll do that. But you understand, you can't get credit. And I looked at him and I said, well, okay, you know, I'm not bashing well, no, but we have to have her stamp because the world knows Temple Grandin as the expert, and
she likes to get hugged.
And literally. And so I walked out of there with absolutely zero compensation.
Jesus.
And they literally built
what you put,
exactly what I drew. But it's rubber stamped Temple Grandin.
Think how often that maybe happens in other places too.
It
happens all the time in every industry, I think.
All over. I have not forgotten it. And I do think I'm going to live long enough that somehow I'm going to get something out of that.
That's crazy.
Hopefully not by their doings. I want to get them.
Right. Well,
I shouldn't say that.
I feel the same way sometimes. I'm always like, God, I really just want to get them back. Some way, shape, or form. I don't care what it is, but
I mean, I get it. What they were talking, I understand, but that's the problem with society today.
Yeah, I would agree.
We're based on, oh my God, she has a movie made after,
and still gets credit.
Yeah, give me a break.
But in her defense, she did. I believe that she did start some good movement.
She did the center line.
But
rail,
the center line
kill, basically.
Yeah, she started some good movement,
which is
for
absolutely the one of the greatest inventions ever made in packing industry. And what the center line, they call it the center line. So what that does is, as the animal is walking along, this 6 or 7 inch wide steel chain, flat, very, very. It's not going to pinch, you know. As they're walking down this alley, this line comes up out of the floor, and the farther they walk, the higher
floor
it gets.
goes lower.
The floor goes lower, and all of a sudden, they're literally just floating, and they hit the knock box, and
comfortable.
There's no stress. There's no noise. I mean, it's crazy cool. That was hers. I will give her credit till the day I die.
Nobody can take that away from her.
Yeah.
I mean,
however, a lot of the other stuff, it's maybe
which the video the movie about her never talked about the center line.
Well, of course it
was all about the squeezing, getting hugged. That's the only thing I remember from that.
So
video.
Her big deal is she always said, you know, everything needs to be curved, needs to be dark. You know, you don't want the animals to see what's coming up. My comment to that is total bullshit. And listen, all you got to do is you have to understand cows.
Yeah.
We go up to our pasture with a pickup. Pick a pickup, but it's always there. And when we drive in that gate with that pickup, if we're only going up there to drive through and look at them, maybe we're going to give them some cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're just checking tanks and we're putting out salt and mineral.
Cake is feed.
Yeah.
Cubes. Those cows, they could care less, right? The next day, we know that we're going to catch these cows, right?
We got a trailer. We have 2 or 3 vehicles.
Oh, no, or just take just the pickup.
Yeah.
They know.
And they know. And so my comment, and I had this conversation years ago at the Denver Stock Show, Baxter Black was hired by a radio station to do a program every day, and he was right across from our Palco equipment, right across from our shoot booth. And so him and I, it was 18 days, 19 days. You know, you get to BS and you get buddies.
Which, if anybody's never heard of Baxter Black, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a cowboy poet.
Okay.
A comedian cowboy poet.
He was one of the greatest ever.
A great poet guy. I mean, he speaks. It's not a written poet. It's his speech on the poet.
Gotcha.
It is worth listening to.
He made a comment. He said, "Hey," he said, "Tomorrow," he said, "my guest is Temple Grandin." And I rolled my eyes and I said, wow, cool, or something like that. And he was like shocked. And he goes, "In your bit," anyway.
Right.
Make a long story short. So her and I kind of got into it, not on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of got into it. And I told her, I said, "I want to tell you something." I said, you think that we can make a chute in an alley curved and dark, and all of a sudden we're going to surprise these cows with a chute, with a syringe and a needle? And I said, I call bullshit on that.
Right.
I said, my belief is the moment we move those cows from that pasture or that yard in a feedlot, the steers or whatever,
the moment you move them
you
from there,
increase their anxiety.
They're already on high alert.
As you go down through the system of alleys, narrower alleys, closer to the system, their anxiety level increases exponentially as you go. I said, by the time you get them in the alley, I don't care if you set off cannons. They're already psyched out.
Right.
So I don't buy the dark crap. I just don't.
Visual, I get the visual side of it, but I think she was going around it because we know a flight path of a cow. You try to stay out of the vision. You try not to. You just don't want to. So a flight path on a cow, they look like this. So you don't want to get. You want to be back here. So you're pushing them this way. They feel like they want to go away from you and not.
So in the world of cattle handling, anyway, the number one thing is cattle handling is made by companies, right? Cattle handling equipment. Companies make their money on the more equipment they sell. So consequently, you want to sell a customer the most you can possibly sell.
Right.
And most customers, they equate success to, well, I need a 60-foot alley. I can't get by with an 8-footer. And at the end of the day, the fastest, simplest, most efficient way to work cattle is from the time they enter the handling equipment, from the time they enter to the time they exit the head gate, and the distance from there to the head gate, the shortest of each is the single most effective, efficient method of working cattle. So a very small tub or a bud box, if you want to use that, and a very short alley and a chute. Because if you're going to head catch them, this is on head catching.
Yep.
If you're going to head catch them, the only thing you need to be concerned about, the only thing, is that you always have one waiting.
Right.
You don't need 20 waiting. And the longer the alley, the more cattle lined up in the alley. It's just like watching a unit train. If you've ever seen a unit train start and stop, every single car starts and stops.
Yep.
Shorten that up. Make it continuous. It's much more effective.
It sounds
We've
like
kind of,
But it's counterproductive to selling equipment.
Right. Right.
We've kind of perfected it on our farmers, like about 4 head, and it just, if you can keep that 4 constantly, it just runs so smooth.
Yeah.
And as long as the cattle are moving, they're more comfortable
They're
because they
comfortable.
feel like it's progress,
Right.
right? It's just like people. If you get stuck in traffic and you're parked there, you're very annoyed. But at least if you're creeping along, you're not as annoyed, I guess.
Are they
Yep.
are they kind of like people too, where the like bigger crowds of them get them more?
No, I mean light crowds. I think
Okay.
you know you're
Well, they're a
safe
herd.
in numbers.
Yes,
Right, a herd,
they're
yeah.
a herd. So
There's
yeah,
safety in numbers. I
certain
guess,
cows, certain livestock, they're fine on their own. But yes, there's certain ones you don't want by themselves because
Yeah,
then
right.
they're on a higher anxiety level, and then it's you versus them, and they kind of know that.
Yeah.
That's a fight or flight type of thing. That
When you
happens.
watch them, the more aggressive, the more agitated, they'll hide. They'll hide in the group.
Right.
but never go with the group until so you
They're
learn.
always the last ones to go. 'cause
You
they'll
learn to
always go
grab
to the
that
back.
one. If you see that one, you're like, I got to get this one before I only have two left.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
don't want them to be the last
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
They
Or you're
want to be
fighting
the
them.
last ones.
Right.
Those are the ones that want to be the last ones, but you never want them to be the
Right.
last ones.
You guys okay with taking a quick pause here?
Yep.
Got a tinkle.
So we kind of touched base on you as a livestock equipment salesman. We got all the way back into you guys starting the Lakeside livestock equipment business and the family and everything like that. Me as a younger kid, I remember you guys having an office. You guys started an animal electronic identification databasing system piece. Tell me a little bit about that.
We did start that, and that was another thing that we started kind of to help us out. So, we obviously had cattle. We sold cattle at the sale barn every year. Our cattle were Simmentals and Red Angus. So we were red-hided. We call them red-hided. And that was when Black Angus and certified Angus beef was a thing. It still is a thing, but the packers always paid more money. The feedlots always paid more money for black-hided cattle. So we always were back more than 10
to
cents.
15 cents a pound.
Yeah, we were always back. And Van and I because we knew we had good cattle And one of the reasons we knew we had good cattle is the same feeders bought our calves year after year after year. So we knew we were doing the right thing because our cattle were going on and making more money. Tracking animals. I remember Van coming home one day and saying, "Oh my gosh, we have got to buy this. We have got to buy this. We have to get on this right now. This is going to be the new thing. We need electronic ID or RFID chips in our cattle." They were $25 a piece. When he came home, they were $25 a piece.
And back then we had to have had 200 head or 150 head.
We didn't have quite that many yet, but
We're just starting into
Yeah.
the upward
yeah. But I was like, okay, dear.
implantable
Right.
Yeah.
chips.
Is that kind of what they use on like dogs nowadays
Yeah.
too?
Yep.
So anyway, I was
RFID stands for radio frequency ID
Gotcha.
yeah. So
identification.
I'm very supportive of Van. Anything Van wants.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I told him, I said, okay, well, obviously we're not going to be able to do one for every animal, but let's, go ahead and call and get some ordered. And that's what we'll just start. We'll start IDing these cattle. So Van calls.
So I called. It was actually an article in the Farm Journal. And in 88, 87,
Yeah.
88.
Yeah.
And the phone number, they actually printed the phone number of the person they interviewed in Montana. And so I called up there and I talked to him about it. It was an implantable microchip, passive, so non-powered, glass encapsulated. And I said, we need to be in this. This is, I think this is going to happen. This is the future. So
And that was in '88.
yeah,
Wow.
let's get started on this. I said, what do we have to do? Well, he said, it's very simple. He said, just place an order. And I said, okay. And so how's it work? Well, he said, there's a series of numbers, And I said, okay. I said, well.
At this point, it's no different than an ear tag, basically, is
Right.
what it is.
And I said, well, gosh,
Which
I don't
is
know. I said, we can't afford a lot. But I said, let's start with, let's say we want to do 10 or 50 or 100. Yeah, okay, not a problem. And I waited. He goes, and I'll never forget this till the day I die. He goes, what numbers would you like? And I said, well, gosh, let's go 1 to 10. And he goes, okay. And I said, whoa, wait a minute here. Okay. I said, my neighbor across the road, he's going to see this and he's going to call up and he's going to want the same thing. And I said, what are you going to do for him? Well, I'm going to make the chips.
Whatever number he wants.
And I said, what if he wants 1 to 10? Well, and I don't remember, honest to God, I do not remember how the conversation ended, but that literally is what started.
Because Van immediately, when he read this article, Van immediately thought,
It's from birth to finish tracking.
It's a unique identification,
A unique number
that would stay with that animal from birth to harvest.
Yep.
Right. So
and never be duplicated.
Right.
Never be. And somebody would always know and be able to track that animal. And it wasn't necessarily tracking the animal for us. It was tracking the productivity. It was tracking the fact that it is a good. Why is this animal so much better than that animal?
Right.
Just because our
If you
cattle are
would
red
track
hided does not mean
That they're subpar.
that they're
Right.
less than a black.
Right.
And that's what we were after.
Right.
Right. And beyond that, so in the beef industry, it's a segregated beef industry,
Mhm.
right? So there's the cow calf person, which is us. And then there's, possibly a backgrounder, which is, a feedlot, or sometimes they go to pasture for
Something that
whatever.
gets them off the cow,
Yeah.
or from the cow to about the time you start really, really feeding them.
So,
Yep.
so
So we-
before the animal is harvested, there might be 4 or 5 different owners that do different things with them.
Yep.
And again, at the end of the day, in the beef industry, it's the consumer. It's whatever ends up on that plate.
It's all about pounds
Pounds and quality.
and quality of the pounds. But yeah, we're
Right.
selling
So
meat, not
why
the hide.
why is this steak to me, why is this steak so much better than that steak? Because I want more of the better steak, and I want to know what I did right to make that better steak.
Right.
So if we're able to track all of those what happens in that animal's life, I mean, maybe we
Anywhere
can
from feeding
pinpoint,
to
to genetics to
medication.
We brainstormed this for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
So it was in 91.
That was, by the way, that was our entertainment. That was our date night.
Yeah.
Literally sitting on the couches.
So in 91,
Well,
very,
when
very,
the kids were in bed, and the nicest kids ever, obviously, were being
Yeah.
really quiet, and then they just got to do their own thing. We left them alone.
yeah, prior to, anyway.
yeah.
So in 91, a very good friend of ours, I'd talked to him I had thrown this out so many times. And he finally said, Jesus, he said, I am tired of hearing about this. He said, do it. Start a business.
Right.
Figure it out. And he said, I'll put up the money. And one thing led to another. He was actually, he was on the fair board, Madison County Fair Board with me. That's how we met. Anyway, we started a company called TML, which stood for the Missing Link.
Nice. That's a good name.
And TML needed to raise more money. We got the name of an attorney down at UTAN. And he happened to be also an attorney for a fairly wealthy individual in Blair, one of the Hunts that started Hunt Telecommunications. And we, at that point in 92 or 3, that was the .com bubble, right?
Yep.
And we were in the middle of that. I mean, right smack in the middle. So we started a venture capital company, raised several $1 million, and all of a sudden had competitors that were doing IPOs for $150 million, which in 92 and 93 was a lot of money. Anyway, ultimately, we hung in there almost to the very end of all of them.
But were you one of the most unique in what you, because yours was about the databasing.
So we started
were the first.
We started the relational database. Everybody else was trying to base everything on profiting early. We were based everything on tracking.
Yeah.
And unique numbers. And so, I mean, we were very fortunate, I guess, looking back on it now. I mean, we were in the middle of it all. We were literally in the middle of all of what's going on today. We were at the beginning.
I was going to say, it had to be some of the first venture capital.
Oh yeah. It was crazy how it worked. I mean, it was, so some of the highlights, a few of the highlights, we did a presentation at the Madison County Fairgrounds, and we had our invited guests that showed up, Undersecretary of Ags, U.S. Undersecretary of Ags, Director of FDA Veterinary Services, Director of FDA Food Services, Director of U.S.
APHIS.
APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, Assistant Director of APHIS.
I mean, it was
huge.
Who.
Big
It
deal.
was a big deal. Big deal. In Madison at the fairgrounds,
Right.
served them.
In Norfolk.
In Norfolk at the country club, we served supper. I mean, it was huge. It was monumental. First one of those ever done,
Right.
showing how you do things. Well, that led to the creation of, we had a handheld, pen-based, handwriting recognition, ruggedized handheld computer with an integrated RFID reader in 1994.
Jesus.
A Palm Pilot, right?
No.
Oh, that was before
that
the
was
Palm
later.
Pilot.
That was
It's called the Hammerhead.
It was more the size of like a regular tablet,
But an inch and a half thick.
yeah,
big old device.
and
Literally.
not near as much memory, I'm sure of it.
And
Oh,
it was
I'm sure.
and it had an onboard modem.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Handheld, battery operated.
That's crazy.
In
And it
94.
was ginormous and not a lot of money. To buy that.
It's stupid expensive,
I'm
but
sure- I'm
that
sure it
didn't
was.
stop us. And so then in 94, 95, the whole world came to an end because mad cow,
Right.
right? BSE, bovine spongiform encephalopathy. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, which led to an invitation to do a presentation to the House of Commons in London, England, in the middle of them destroying hundreds of thousands of cattle and burning them.
Right.
So I flew over there. I was over there for 2.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Went from London to, I'll never forget this. I looked out the window, standing shoulder to shoulder with the director of the ag sector of the European Union in Brussels, Belgium, in the headquarters building of the European Union, looking out on a auditorium that was literally a complete duplicate of the UN in New York City.
Really.
Crazy cool. I mean, it was cool.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
And went to Amsterdam and Germany and just all over. But you know, when I flew in, we circled London for several hours because of fog.
Yep.
Anyway, never did see the fumes of smoke, you know, from the burning cows.
Yeah.
Never did. But I tell this story, and this is fun for me to say.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I say, when I hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm stressed out," yeah, you don't know what stress is. So this is 1995.
Yep.
heart in the middle of Mad Cow, right? The whole world is still shook up about Mad Cow. I go to London. Ultimately, I was awake for 32 hours straight.
Jeez.
Before, literally awake.
Right.
And I got into the room. I had time to change my clothes, and I had an appointment, a lunch appointment. And they said, whatever you do, you got to wear your hat. You got to wear your Stetson. Well, I don't wear Stetsons. Anyway, so I walk out. I get in the iconic London taxi, right?
Yep.
And away we go. And we ultimately get down to a residential area, which is Mary Poppins. Right out of the movie, Mary Poppins. We're driving down real fast. This guy's just hauling ass. And cars on both sides. All of a sudden, all the cars are gone, and the street opens up, and there's a big area in the curb, and he pulls over, and there's a red carpet leading up to two big wooden doors with crossbucks windows, and looks kind of iconically old school, right? And the doors open up, and there has to be 400 people in this pub.
Oh my goodness.
And they parted. I felt like Moses for a little bit, kind of parted the way. And I walked I met at the door my sponsor, which was a MP, member of Parliament. And again, I'm in the country of England for 2 hours at that point or less.
Right.
Walking up there and kind of curve to the right or to the left, and the crowd opens up, and here is a single square table with an iconic red and white checkered tablecloth and two chairs. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not exaggerating. 400 people in this pub.
Wow.
And the MP sits down, and he motions for me, and I sit down. No introductions, no nothing. And everybody's looking at me, and all of a sudden, the room goes completely silent. You could hear a pin drop.
Yep.
And the crowd opens up again, and here comes this waitress in another red and white checkered apron, and she brought me out a hamburger and set it down in front of me, and then sets a Heinz ketchup bottle right beside it. And everybody looked at me. That's stress.
Yeah, that's stress. That's stress.
And by the way, I put ketchup on. I ate that hamburger.
There you go. There you go.
All I could think of is my dad telling me all my life growing up, when in Rome.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
You do as the Romans. And I ate the hamburger. And from there, but I never, that was the most stressful thing I think I've ever done in my entire life.
That sounds very stressful to me. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
If I don't eat the hamburger, it's over.
Right. They're like the cowboy from the middle of America won't even eat beef. We're screwed. And that's probably why they made you wear the hat. Just
the
same thing.
It was
a publicity deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stories, but that's probably the best one.
That's a good one. That's really funny.
So anyway, we ultimately chased through the USAHA, United States Animal Health Association, went to more meetings, went to so many meetings and conventions. I was on an airplane one time, and some gal sitting beside me, she looked at me and she said, "What is it you do?" And I said, "I convene."
Right, I convene, yeah. I meet.
And that went on for a few years, and then all of a sudden it dawned on us, it's so foolish because, again,
they're basically picking your brain to do it governmentally by themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And so ultimately we got a patent on our system. We have our own opinion of Mike Johans as the governor and Mike Johans as the Secretary of Ag. I won't share that opinion, but, put two and two together.
Yeah.
And it became a scenario where it was bashed, and we ultimately took nothing and lost everything, over the fact that, the powers that be were not going to let it be held in private hands. And ultimately, as predicted in the 80s, it'll come to pass.
Yeah.
That'll be held by corporate America.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah, sure. It's
'Cause
going to be.
the government can't run it, but I mean they took it fair. I mean they took it not fair and square, but they basically did that. I mean that happens in a lot of industries too.
Yeah, they copied us. They literally copied. I mean, they.
You had the patent, and they just pretty much just.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, a patent is only as good as you can
Enforce
pay to
it.
protect
Yeah.
it
Right.
and enforce it.
Yeah, a lot of people think patents are a great thing. I learned the hard way. We learned the hard way. Patents are good for one thing. It gives you the opportunity to enforce it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other value to a patent.
Yeah.
Patents mean nothing. They cost a lot of money. In today's world of litigation, save your money. The one thing most people don't understand about a patent, the most protection you'll ever get from a patent is the day you file it. So filing for a patent today is way more important and way more valuable than receiving the patent.
Because they can't take it once you've filed for it until it's approved, right?
When you file, you have government protection for the previous 18 months and the following 18 months.
Wow. Okay.
Once it's granted, then it's your responsibility to enforce it.
Which costs money,
Yeah, and you typically never win. So filing a patent is the value.
Yeah.
I personally think trademarking right now is much more important than patenting.
I was going to bring that up because we're not big by any means on this podcast or anything, but I'm worried about trademarking some logos, some sayings.
Absolutely.
Things.
Trademark is not interpretable. Patents are interpretable.
Right.
Patents are...
Because all they got to do is change one ingredient, and it's no
Absolutely.
longer the same patent.
Patents are argumentative.
Yeah.
But a trademark, that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a logo that's a style and you get it trademarked, that's pretty hard to argue with.
Yeah.
You can't just change the color and say, oh, we're different. No, because it looks similar.
Right.
If we made this black and white and both of you black and white, it's the same logo.
Yep.
So, but a patent's a tough deal anymore. Patents are good for very, very, very large corporations based on pharmaceuticals. I think are still good with patents. But again, the other thing most people don't understand is a patent runs out after 21 years. However, no patent is granted to a company. Did you know that?
Didn't know that.
Only individuals.
So even when it comes to medication,
There is an individual somewhere, his name is on that. Now, most likely he has signed a release to the company he works
for money.
Absolutely. But no patent has ever been or ever will be issued to a company.
Isn't that also when the patent runs out, let's say on I don't even, just some medication, isn't that when it becomes generic
Ivermectin.
too? Yeah. Isn't that when it becomes generic?
Yep.
A generic
Not
drug?
necessarily. No, generic can be done by the patent holder. A patent holder can grant a license for generic, and everybody says it's the same thing. It's never the same thing. If it was the same thing, there wouldn't be the original.
Yeah.
Okay? So the copy, let's say Tylenol, acetaminophen, right? It has 10 ingredients. So the generic will have 10 ingredients, the same 10 ingredients. It doesn't necessarily exactly require the exact amount of those 10 ingredients.
Okay.
So it's generic, so it has the 10 ingredients. This is all arbitrary, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't like generic. I don't like anything generic.
No.
I hate copies. I mean, if you're going to copy something, spare me the time.
Right.
Go out and design something yourself. Do it original.
Right.
And then, of course, I do respect those that copy and do it well.
Right.
Zero respect for people that copy and screw it up.
Well, now you're making me want to trademark stuff even more now.
So if you were to, if you're going to talk to a younger generation or somebody looking to venture out on their own, start an idea. Obviously, it's a failure, but you had a lot of experiences between the two of you. I mean, it is what it is. You got life experience. You went to England. You went to South America. You got to go to plenty of conventions.
She went to Russia and Turkey, and
Not with it,
but that was a different deal.
No,
would you?
I mean,
what I'm going to get at is the way I look at it is don't ever be afraid of failure. And would you still say that even going through what you went through?
absolutely.
absolutely.
Would
Do it
you,
all again.
If you had to do it, you guys would do it again?
Well,
Change what
if
you did,
have an
but-
if you have an idea, sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't work out. And it kind of goes back to the FFA program at Battle Creek, right? Maybe it didn't work out really great the first time or right away.
Yeah.
But hey, it's working now. And honestly, I mean, you shall know the Antichrist by the marking of the beast. Literally.
If we would have known who Ted Gudensky, what was his name?
Gradinsky.
Gudensky, the
If we'd have known
Unabomber?
who he was, we wouldn't have got our mail for years.
No, it wasn't for years. But no, literally, we were called the Antichrist.
There's a
Because
T- we
you
what now?
shall know the Antichrist
we
by
have
the
a
marking of the
VCR
beast.
copy of a television show made
Okay.
in Niagara Falls
Of the book of Revelations. So the book of Revelations, you shall know the Antichrist by the,
by the
marking,
marking
of the beast.
Yeah.
And they had my
So-
picture on it.
Oh my gosh.
So when no, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. Yes, they did.
No, they didn't. But they sent it
Yes,
to us.
they did.
Wow.
They sent it to us. And when all of this came out in the news, yeah, it was kind of a big uproar. And that goes back to part of the problem is
So they were
and-
thinking
and-
about it on that side. You shall the mark of the beast. That's more on the side they're going to implant humans.
Yep.
You guys
Mm-hmm.
are getting them to a point where that's the way they were looking at it. Is like you guys are doing this in animals. I know that's what you're doing, but eventually that's going
Right.
to lead to human implantation, and I
Right.
could
Well,
see that
even-
issue. I
even
mean,
our
it's happened in
shareholders-
the Holocaust. So they tattooed a mark.
Right. So, but even our shareholders, I mean, we talked about in some of our meetings about doing children. And maybe we weren't implanting them, but like when children go to a mall, can they be given
Disney. Somebody from Disney had contacted us about doing like
given some sort of bracelet or some sort of
bracelets,
barrette
barrettes,
or that would
little
have an
sunglasses.
RFID
Which they
thing in
have
it.
those now.
Yeah, well,
Right. So, and then every exit would have a reader, and so they would know when those children
if
exited,
they were abducted,
abducted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have
would
those
know
now,
right
and
away.
that's not for that reason.
pay.
It's pay and
Right.
and everything you know about Disney lately. And so maybe they had ill intentions the whole time.
Could be.
The whole. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
trust
and they
Disney.
see it, but we were
Like everything starts out as a good idea and then can get corrupted.
Yeah, when you Googled there for a while, when you Googled Van and Kathy Neidig, you got some really. There wasn't very nice stuff that came up on the internet. It
So to
was
give you an
the
example,
Antichrist.
do you remember
They
Paul
had
Harvey?
Yep.
Not to
Sure.
interrupt. You remember Paul Harvey?
Mhm.
So that going back to the deal we had at Madison, and the
Yep.
Paul Harvey did a report on that.
Really?
We were on
Yeah,
the rest of the story.
Nice.
Dan and Kathy Neidig.
yeah, we have a transcript actually.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really
Not
cool.
everybody gets that. So
No,
would we
no.
do it again?
nobody knows who Paul
Yes.
Harvey is anymore. But
I do.
I grew up with Paul Harvey, so
Paul Harvey was kind of a big deal. That was a big deal.
Oh,
For
for
us.
sure.
yeah, we had people call up. Oh my God, your name! You're just Paul Harvey just talked about you guys.
But we had to like scramble to get somebody to actually
Found somebody on
to
Washington that
videotape
heard.
or to tape it.
Yeah.
For us.
Oh, yeah.
2 hours later, they
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because we were like going.
Yeah.
We had to.
Trying to find somebody to be able to record it. That's great.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things.
But on the animal ID thing, Van talks about part of our problem with Van is that he's such a forward thinker, right? I mean, he thought of this, and I wouldn't have thought of that. But then once he brought it up, absolutely, that's a cool idea, and that is what this industry needs. But the industry wasn't accepting it. So
Wasn't ready.
That's really what it is.
It wasn't ready, but
Didn't understand it.
Yeah.
and in the ag industry, people are humble, right?
Very humble.
And they're
set in their ways.
Set in their ways.
And it happens all the time.
And I think
they're set in their ways, and they're very private.
Very
right?
private.
So nobody, I mean, good friends of ours. Van was asked to leave the dinner table one time when he was talking about tracking IDing stuff because the rancher literally couldn't.
You have
grasp.
to leave now.
jeez.
He's very
Just
mad.
couldn't wrap it around his head.
But he didn't. But he didn't see it. He didn't see it the way we saw it.
Didn't see the value in it.
No, he saw it right away as Big Brother theory.
Yeah.
Right. And so
What I
he
saw was a
freaked out.
very good steak left at the table.
That specific dinner you saw the steak.
Yeah.
But
Free.
I think if Van would have come up with this idea, let's say 10 years later,
Yeah.
I think it would have been
Looked at it a little differently.
yeah.
Well, like him or not,
we were the first.
Yeah, like him or not, and I'm going to mention Ben Nelson, but
That's fine.
he was the governor at the time, and I mean, we all have an opinion since then. However, I'll never forget, he sat at Dad's dining room table. He was governor,
Mm-hmm.
and I pitched this idea to him, and Governor Nelson said, he said, I don't know how to respond. He said, you are either 20 years too late or 20 years too early. And that essentially that's all he said.
He got it. In Ben's defense,
He did get it.
He got it right away. And
Well, Ben took you on the trade mission. That's who you went on the trade
we went
mission
to South
with?
America, went to Argentina and Brazil, and I mean set up with the heads of those countries, agriculture and
Yep.
breeds, and I mean it was a huge deal, and they weren't quite ready either. But it was Ben was very, very supportive. It was Mike that was
He saw dollar signs
oh yeah
in the public sector and not the private sector.
He saw a feather in his hat. Period.
Yeah.
And
no, but we would do it again. And I do remember us talking to, and I will never forget this. But we were talking to a gentleman, and I, for the life of me, cannot remember his name. Super nice guy. And we were telling him all the things that we were doing because we had a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on. And he just looked at us and he understood too. And he was really excited and very supportive. But he literally looked at us and he said, this is so great, and it's a good thing you are so young. Do you remember that?
No.
I mean, just because we were on the run all the time, and I didn't really understand that until now. I'm older, and I don't know that I would be doing that at my age right now.
Yeah.
Just because
I'll never
was
help
a
move
lot
a
of
state
stress.
fairgrounds again.
there was a lot of stress, and there was a lot to it. Vance, you're asking, would you tell an entrepreneur? Yes, absolutely. Go for it. Go for it if you have the energy. But it's not easy work.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it is a constant battle, and it is an uphill battle.
You have to learn to bite your tongue a lot, which I'm not very good at.
No.
I have bit my tongue, haven't I? Not a lot. Maybe.
Once or twice.
Get through it.
If you say I've bit my tongue, does that mean one time, twice, 3 times? Are we going to go with a baker's
It's hard
dozen?
to hurt
'Cause it's
my
probably
feelings.
tough.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that meme on Facebook that says, in order for you to hurt my feelings, I must first respect your opinion.
Right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
And I don't respect very many opinions.
Yeah. Well, it's okay though. It's good to.
I don't know. I am really happy we did everything we've done.
Oh, absolutely.
And
we run into people that that we knew in that industry today, right? And that was, we sold a piece in
01. 01 or 03?
Yeah. I was going to say 05, but
No,
right
I
in
think
there.
I think it was
03. It was 03.
Thought I was in college, but maybe not.
Yeah. But okay, so but we run into the industry people today.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that they had that much respect for us, but it is I didn't realize back then that
Right.
they did.
Right.
But now when you talk to them, I feel like we were competitors, or we intimidated them.
Well, you guys are just very innovative.
Maybe or something. But when you talk to those people today, I feel like, wow, I think they really
I feel like an old
respected us.
man. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like it.
But they actually saw us as the forerunners or as the trailblazers.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't realize back then that they viewed us that
Well,
way.
it
But
goes-
now I do.
You're very innovative. It goes back to the jealousy thing you said before. That was probably part of it too.
Yeah, I think Kathy's the one that taught me that. So part of that comes from the state fair deal. A lot of animosity. And, you know, I always draw up on the state fair because that was a pretty traumatic experience all in all. Not bad. I mean, just very intense. But my fellow board members at the time we were building the Nebraska State Fair in Grand Island wrote a letter and signed it to the governor to have me investigated by the Attorney General. And literally, this was one of the quotes, because no volunteer in the world works that hard for nothing.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's,
True comment. Can you imagine? Can you imagine writing
that is
that
crazy.
comment about anybody?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah. I
No
remember that.
volunteer works that hard for nothing. And it's like, and the good news was the governor just leveled this guy.
I'm sure.
And it was embarrassing to them, but it was embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
Well, not
Well, somebody
embarrassing,
would
but
think
I
it's
never
hurtful.
let him know that, by the way.
That's okay. That's
It's
okay.
more hurtful than anything else.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, you
it
pour
was-
your blood, sweat, and
Right.
tears into volunteering, and I don't know. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I try to raise.
I just looked at it as a
my
lazy
boys
bastard.
and-
I mean,
Right.
that's the best you can come up with.
Right.
Yeah, walk away.
Yeah.
You know, your chair is needed by somebody else.
Right.
But you know,
That kind of baffles me a little bit.
I grew up. I've seen it going all the way back to the Madison County Fair Board where you were on that, and obviously us as a family. And
we did lots.
we did everything, and I've told Zach and I've told other people during the whole Madison County Fair. I mean, we put new cattle ties in cattle tie outs in, but it was us five, a few other people, I mean, 2 or 3 board members, and maybe a couple of their family. And it just seemed like I told Zach, I said, yeah, we got voluntold for a lot of stuff.
That's one of his favorite words.
But I think it is that, and the entrepreneurship, obviously, with doing the lakes or doing a piece. You had a fencing business, which actually kind of turned into us being able to make our own fences. Me, Justin, JT, and I do a lot of fencing for other people. We turn that into, we do a little entrepreneur type shit stuff every once in a while, and then rock bottoms and all that. And then, yeah, Dad was on the fair board for 20 years, 20 years of the county fair board.
25 on Madison,
25, 10.
9 on state.
And that seems, yeah, he was there, but it seemed like the whole family was there all the time. I mean,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, that's what it felt like. Mom was just as involved in all that.
Oh yeah. Well,
It was never a
interestingly
one-person
enough,
deal.
I still hold the record for the youngest county fair board member in the state of Nebraska.
Really?
I was appointed to the county fair board at 17 years old.
Holy cow. That's kind of an amazing feat.
Well, it wasn't a feat. It was I went to the board meeting and bitched about something.
he complained. Next thing you know, before he leaves,
2 old guys, Van Vogt and I. Van Vogt showed up. He wanted a better rodeo deal, and I wanted a better beef show deal. And both of us were kind of loaded for bear. And there was 2 old guys on the board that just had enough. And before the night was over, Van and I were both on the fair board.
That's great. That's
Purely,
okay. That's funny.
And the rest is history.
We talked about you had that letter sent to the governor about that. That's all based on the 11 months of building the
11 months and 3 weeks.
Kind of go into a little bit. I mean, you spent a lot of time there, so that obviously put a strain on taking care of everything at home. Mom obviously had to take care of everything at home. The kids had to take care of everything at home and stuff like that. Kind of explain. Yeah, I mean, you put a lot into that. Everybody as a family probably put a lot into that. So can you kind of go into a little bit of how that went down? What was great about that? How it worked out as best as it did?
So I tried to get on the fair board on the state fair board. That's when the convention was held in Lincoln at the original Holiday Inn, which is the high-rise now. I don't know what you call it now, Vance. The big, tall building right off of Haymarket.
Oh,
the Onion.
Oh, the what now?
The Onion or the Graduate?
The Graduate. Are you talking the hotel?
Yeah.
The Graduate.
I don't know.
It's the Graduate now.
It was the restaurant, and it was.
Yeah. That's funny.
Anyway, so the convention used to be there, and this would have been in the 80s. Stan Shellpepper was president, and what was the worthless dude that was running the fair at the time? Anyway, it was a bad deal. Anyway, so there were 1,200 people in the room, and I got up on the microphone, and because it was an open mic, and I started asking questions, fairly harsh questions.
At that time, it was a board of 29, right?
It was a board of 29. Yep.
Yes.
And I'll never forget Stan Shellpepper as the president of the Nebraska State Fair Board, board of 29, leaned ahead to his microphone and said these words: "Somebody unplug that son of a bitch."
Oh, my God.
In front of 1,200 people.
That's
And
embarrassing for him.
well, it was embarrassing for me at the time. Although when I got all done, because they literally unplugged it. And
Turns out Van has a loud voice.
I have a big voice, and I just
No.
blurted. I kept going. Got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
So the next year, I ran for the board, and I lost by 1 vote, and that was in the 80s. And then the next time was when the Nebraska legislature disbanded the fair board. And
Because
started
it was
over.
corrupt. The
Because it was
board of
corrupt.
29
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
corrupt.
Well, anybody asking
just-
to unplug
Well,
a
they were
microphone?
bankrupt.
might
They
be a
were
little
just
corrupt.
they just kept taking money for
Yeah.
themselves. They were
Yeah.
basically embezzling all the money.
Okay.
Anyway, and I don't know if I'll go that far, but yeah,
But not really.
Essentially,
But they were
embezzling
bankrupt.
benefits.
And they weren't making any
Yeah.
money.
Well, obviously, it was disbanded for a reason.
Oh yeah, it was broke.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then they reassigned a board. I ran for it, and that's when the convention moved to Kearney, or before that was in Kearney. And then anyway, I ran for the board, and I got voted on by 1 vote. I got voted on by 1 vote 3 times. By the way, I won election every time by one vote. Which my partner calls me landslide, but that's another story. So anyway, Harvey Perlman also got put on there, and Harvey Perlman, and I don't care. I'll say this openly: the guy's a worthless piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't understand how he got to where he was, but I'll tell you, if you want to know what happens when boards go rogue, Harvey Perlman, if you remember, was the man who said, "Hey, if you don't like the job I'm doing, fire me."
Yeah.
And they didn't. And that's where the problem started. So when he got on the fair board, we were at a board meeting, and we were bankrupt. We were broke. I mean, it was a bad deal. That was before the election, or before the vote on the lottery money, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of news media was there because this was going down. Nobody knew where it was going to go, but the fair was in a bad place.
Right.
And I made some comment, and Harvey, of course, we had to sit side by side, Neidig, Perlman, and It was ugly.
Yeah.
And then Pete's was on the other side. So we're sitting there, and Harvey leaned ahead and said into his little microphone there, because they had all the microphones on Harvey Perlman, And he said, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Neidig, needs to understand that while Nebraska may geographically be an agricultural state, demographically it's urban. And of course, that prompted me to lean ahead into my microphone. And I said, did everybody just hear what I heard? Because this is the chancellor of the only land-grant university in this state. And everybody in this room is sitting here doing nothing. And to this day, it's never, ever been reported what he said.
Jesus.
But I'll never forget that. And that right then indicated to me, this is the guy. This is who we're dealing with, right? So it was a land grab, no question asked. So we go through a lot of things. Lancaster County Ag Society wanted the state fair to move to Lancaster County Event Center. A group of Lincoln people formed a company called the 2015 group. Right? I think it's something, I can't remember. It's 2015 something. Well, at the time, that seemed like a long ways away.
Right.
And so essentially, everybody was after our racing card, our horse race card. Because the state fair had the longest, the most dates and the longest run. And it was supposedly a big deal. And as we were going through all this, a state senator had picked up on the fact that the National Lottery, of which Nebraska was part of, had recalculated and changed their dispersion methods, and had made the announcement, hey, every state is literally going to get an extra 10% every year. So tell us how you want this done.
Allocate. How do you want to allocate it?
How do you want to allocate it? So Nebraska was the only state, and I wish I could remember the legislator who did this. Great guy, a little weird. Wore a bow tie all the time. Always wore a bow tie. And his deal was, he said, well, and he had no dog in this fight.
Yeah.
This was just him coming up with an idea. He said, we won't take anything away from education. We won't take anything away from natural resources. But if we have this extra 10%, let's do a statewide vote on a constitutional amendment to give that new 10% disbursement to the Nebraska State Fair. And it passed, which no one expected to.
Right.
And by the way, is the only one in North America, and maybe the only one in the world, that literally is supported by lottery funds.
Right.
Turned out to be a huge deal. Then all of a sudden, game on. That's big money. So Lancaster Event Center, City of Lincoln, Lancaster County, everybody in the world, oh my God, we're going to move you to Lancaster Event Center. We're going to build a new 1.25 mile track. We're going to have a grandstand that holds 20,000 people, blah, 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 all based on horse racing, which was a dying industry at the time.
Right.
All right. Has not improved much
Since.
Actually has not improved.
Yeah.
Anyway, and one thing led to another, and got to know Tam Allen, who is our current business partner, has been for years. He was new on the board, and we'd kind of grown to become buddies, I guess, not friends maybe, but buddies. And I made the comment, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, if these sons of bitches make us pack our bags, I'll be goddamned if we're going to unpack them in Lancaster County.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
Well, that ultimately got to the governor. Then I had to repeat it to the governor. And then later on, it got to the legislators in a kind of an unpublicized unopened meeting, so to speak. And Nelson said, you have to Heineman said, you have to repeat exactly, blah, blah, blah. So I said those words. Anyway, so Kearney, North Platte, and Grand Island were in the running. Kearney, unfortunately, Kearney was the lead, what everybody wanted, most people in the circle.
Fairly central, super centralized.
Very
Super centralized, nice community, whatever.
Yeah.
Estimate came back at $145 million. Well, nobody was going to get $145 million. We didn't know where that was going to come from. And unfortunately, I got a phone call, and it was Dave Oldfather, one of the main civic leaders, I guess, of Kearney. And he said, here's the deal. He said, I have a half section of land straight north of the arch. I'm going to donate that.
Wow.
Give it to the state fair.
Yeah.
He said, there's one catch. I said, what's that? He said, 4 months ago, the city of Kearney, Chamber of Commerce, business community, himself, others, put up enough money to get an interchange just to the east of the arch, and the federal government had accepted it like 2 weeks before this.
Oh, my gosh.
And he said, we had 16 million, and they took the 16 million. It's committed. Well, one thing leads to another. Grand Island comes down, says, we're going to give $10 million. And you build it at Heartland Event Center, or Fauner Park.
Yep.
We have Heartland Event Center, a 5,000-seat indoor arena, and all the horse facilities. All of a sudden become a no-brainer. Now, what most people don't know is Grand Island never came up with the $10 million.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Now, they didn't come up. They came up with $810,000. The rest of it, we just BS'd our way through it.
Yeah.
And nobody knows.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
They know now.
Everybody
They
knows.
know now. Anyway, yeah. Again, my partner is an attorney, and his comment will be, we're over 7 years.
Right.
We can talk about it now. So one thing led to another. We took this $145 million estimate. We got an architect, went through a few things, fired the architectural firm because they were just doing a cookie cutter, stupid type layout. And again, our partner, even though he's an attorney, he's a non-practicing attorney. He maintains his license, but he's a real estate developer. And he's very, very good at what he does. And so he finally calls up and says, hey, we're going to do things a little different. He said, you have a real good handle on how you want these buildings. I have a real good handle on how they should be situated. He said, we don't have any money. So he said, I'm going to fire the new architect, and we're going to hire him by the hour. And so what most people don't understand is the architect, and again, until anybody listens to this, probably 20 people in this world know this, what I'm about to say, maybe less. The architect was on site 3 times during the entire process. So we hired them to draw what we wanted, what we spec'd, and we hired the engineering firm to stamp and engineer but we made every decision.
Right.
We ran the thing, and of course, in 2009, the construction industry tanked.
Yep.
Literally. We had 2 masons, union masons from North Carolina, drove to Grand Island, lived in their car through the winter just to have work.
And this winter, I don't know if people remember, but that winter was brutally cold.
Right.
It miserably cold.
I have a picture of 54 Hispanics from Denver area laying the 40-foot sheets of tin on the roof with a 52 below wind chill.
Good Lord.
And so Christmas Eve, I did call my partner. At the time, he wasn't my partner. Obviously, wasn't our partner. But I called him and I said, hey, Tam, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to buy these guys a motel room each.
Yeah.
And so for Christmas Eve, they got to stay in a motel room, got a shower and a bed.
Well, that was good of you.
But I mean, but we went through that whole process. Anyway, when we're all done, we did it for $41 million.
Wow.
And
it was budgeted at 145, you said?
The estimate was 145.
Wow.
But we did, so again, what most people don't understand, it was all on the fly. It was crazy fast. Again, we did it in 11 months and 3 weeks. We closed the Nebraska State Fair in 2009 on the standard dates in Lincoln, and we opened at the same dates in Grand Island in 2010, and we were done.
That is amazing work.
But it took 280 nights of me staying in a motel in Grand Island.
You're making sure everything got done.
First time in my life, I never saw any calf born. I mean, they bred the cows, Kathy and the boys.
You put a lot into it.
Well, we all did. And then all of us, literally all of us, worked. They'd come down when they could. I mean, we worked.
The cattle ties I was involved in putting the wood in every single cattle tie on the Nebraska State Fairground. 500 and some odd cattle ties. 540.
We talk a lot on the podcast about people don't understand how things get done. They just think it just happens.
It's magical. It's always magical.
Everything just kind of happens. It just rolls along.
So Tam's favorite comment is, make the magic go away.
Yeah.
And it is. People think everything's magic. It's not magic. No. But it was fun. And again, I mean, I will never in my life do it again. But
I don't blame you.
I
whatsoever.
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was crazy. You know, there was one day, I can't remember, was it March or was it May? There was one day the general contractor did a little deal. And on one of those particular days, the Nebraska State Fairgrounds construction site was the 32nd largest community in Nebraska.
Wow, that's
how many we had.
That many people there.
3,100 or 3,280 people working on one day.
Wow.
And through this entire
process, took a buy-in from every single person that worked there. A 100% buy-in from the broom sweeper to the general contractor.
Yeah, and we were doing stuff. We had painters, all right, and none of these guys had another job to go to.
Right.
Nobody did, right? And so Tam and I were walking out of the loft up the top loft, which, by the way, doesn't appear on very many drawings because it was a found item and we made it.
Yep.
Anyway, we're walking out, and he said, I really don't like this color. And I said, well, you're the idiot who wanted this color. I never wanted this color. I think it looks nauseous. It makes me nauseous. Well, he said, change the color. And that was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By 8 a.m., it was a different color.
Wow.
I mean, I could go on and on. We could spend hours and hours on this. But it was fascinating to me how really it wasn't rocket science. It was just, my big thing was I wanted to make sure I was the first person everybody saw when they got to work.
Yep.
And I wanted to be the last person they saw when they left. That's all I cared about. It was a hell of a diet plan, by the way.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
I think it also goes to show in any industry you're going to do anything, respect towards blue collar worker, your lowest rung person is going to go a long ways. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your lot in life is. If you're going to treat the janitor with the same respect you treat the CEO with, they're going to give you 100% buy-in.
But you were too hardworking, right?
Yeah, nobody works. Anyway, I had 2 lines. I did have 2 lines that I used repeatedly. It didn't really start till March or April. And I was literally on that half mile. I was in every single square foot,
right,
several times a day,
right,
period. And so my 2 lines were, and I could yell this and hit 100 guys at a time, and that was, listen, you sons of bitches, this ain't a Walmart. We cannot postpone the open house. All right, that was my first line. The second line was, if you bastards get this done on time, we will have a party.
Yeah.
And we did have a party, and we had 350 guys come back for it.
Wow.
And come to find out after the fact, every single person that worked there said, we hear that all the time. This is the first party that's ever happened.
Really?
This is a great party. I mean,
But it goes back to what Vance says,
and everything.
respect.
Right.
I mean,
Everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
One real quick thing, I got to say this because this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I had a few issues with some of the authorities.
Well,
Hard to believe.
I wonder how Vance got a hold of that.
It's not me.
And one of them was the OSHA guy,
Yeah.
right? He was just anyway. We had our issues, and one day he walked up, and he was just beaming. I mean, he was so happy, and I thought, he goes, I got you. He said, I am shutting down construction on the swine barn right now. And they were roofing.
Yeah.
They were roofing the swine barn. And I said, why is that? He said, you don't have an elevator. I said, an elevator for what? And he pulls out his book and he reads this. He said, cannot have more than 5 vertical steps for an employee to use the restroom. So he said, you're shut down until you put up an elevator. He comes back the next morning at 8 o'clock, just livid. Guys are up on top putting tin on. And he said, that's it. I got you. Got you. This is a big fine. Big fine, shutting the entire operation down, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, don't think so. He said, you don't have an elevator. I said, don't need an elevator. I said, you told me 5 vertical steps. That is correct. Well, the swine barn has 2 levels of roofs.
Yeah.
One roof was done, or
One roof is already done. The lower roof is already done.
Yeah.
The guys built a platform overnight, set a porta potty up on top, and it was 5 steps to the high roof. And this guy, that was cool.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And the only other time it got really bad is I ordered the electrical inspector off the site, and told him I'd call the state patrol and have him removed if he didn't leave himself.
Really?
And it was really ugly, and I'm leaving off an hour's worth of just
Right.
massive screaming and yelling.
Were people telling them to come try to stop you? Like,
No,
why were
just
they
have
so
authority.
adamant to?
They have authority.
it's more government.
I just don't understand why you'd want to, like.
Anyway, he was wearing shorts, and OSHA does not allow shorts or short sleeve shirts
Right.
on construction sites. And I said that to him, and he just stood there and he left finally. And of course, then I called Tam and I said, "Oh my God. He said, "Oh my God, what'd you do?" I said, I just made the electrical inspector leave the property. Ordered him off the property. His first question, you didn't hit him, did you? I said, no, I didn't hit him. Okay,
We're
we
good.
can handle everything else.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot of stories, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
It
you know,
I mean, you look joyful telling the stories. So.
well, here's the deal. This is what I like better than anything for me and our family. And that is, how many people in this world today can say they helped build a state fair
Right. Not many at all.
from scratch?
Right.
And
I mean,
every single, my younger brothers, obviously mom, dad, every single person was involved in that entire thing at some point. Spent a lot of time. I mean, we all chipped in. Obviously, dad was there the most, but we all did something. That's kind of crazy.
it's paid well. That's why we live in a mansion with butlers.
Right.
We're damn near Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Keep our jet.
We
you know.
hang out with Elon
Keep it
Musk
on the
every now and
tarmac.
then.
Anyway, sorry. I could.
No,
that's
we're
fine.
good.
And also, I mean, you did that on a mom. You've done a lot of. Obviously, we've gone into your volunteering. Is crazy. It's on everything. But you've also been instrumental on creating something basically out of scratch. I mean, with the Exceptional Women Conference, you were very instrumental and did a lot on that too. Here in right here at Northeast Community College, right here.
Right. And I am very proud of that. But I do have to correct you. Corrine Morris and Bonnie Schultz kind of had the brainchild. and they started it. But they brought in people. They invited women in agriculture from around the area. So I was one of the in on the ground, and kind of took off running with that. But for what, and I don't even know how I ended up with a job out there, but it was kind of volunteer. First, I was doing all their kind of bookkeeping for their sponsorships and stuff. And then next thing I know, I'm part-time out there at the college working with the dean of ag and the associate dean of ag at the time, Crane Morris. And then I pretty much ran the conference after Bonnie Schultz. She ended up quit her job and went back to the farm in Battle Creek.
And she retired as a teacher.
Yep, she retired as a teacher, and so she kind of stepped down from that exceptional conference. And so I pretty much took that on and grew it, I guess, along with our board of director. I mean, we have a board, had a board. I'm on the board now. I no longer, but yeah, that was good. And that was the brainchild of really Bonnie Schultz kind of thought about it. She went to a Women in Ag conference up in South Dakota, I think is where she first thought that this is what we need to do in Northeast Nebraska. But it is actually cool because as a woman in agriculture, it is kind of a man's world, and it is nicer. Even like obviously Van, I do a lot, but Van is
Dad
Van
wouldn't
is
be able
kinda
to
the-
spend 210 nights at a hotel
in
at the
Grand
Taj
Island.
Mahal of Grand Island.
Oh, yeah.
If you weren't on the farm taking care of the cattle and everything else.
Right. No, but I do. It is different, and like for instance, I remember sitting at a speech contest, and another local ag guy has cattle walked up to me and started asking me how Van was doing calving the cows. I was like, well, he's doing pretty good because he's not calving the cows I am.
And that's how you calve cows.
He's having a really good calving season.
He's doing the best calving ever.
He's having a really good calving season, actually.
He is living the dream.
Actually, Dan, he's having a really good. But anyway, but people don't understand that when it's a family. I mean, even with you're married,
Yep.
and I think that your wife probably, you're kind of the forefront. Everybody sees you,
Yeah.
but your wife is in the background making stuff happen.
Yeah, I talk about her a lot. She and I was going to bring this up too. A key word of the podcast is balance. And I was going to say you guys seem to have balanced things really well, making sure things are taken care of at home while he's gone. I'm sure you balance that out with
I do
each other.
everything she tells me to.
Yeah, that's good too. You guys communicate well with each other, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When it comes to taking care of stuff, maybe not. But yes.
No, we do.
So the BS
It's
works,
tough,
Gabby.
though. I mean, but it is.
But you said
tough.
you had date night talking about starting a whole new project, right?
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
Yep.
Our date night usually includes a 4-wheeler and cows.
yeah, right. But yeah, it just goes back to communicating about, I had a dream to do the podcast, and my wife's obviously sitting at home right now taking care of the kids so that I can do this. Because even right after this, we're going to record another episode. And last night I recorded 2 episodes, and just like you believed in what Van could do, and you always were right behind him. She's the same way with me, and it just I'm blessed to have her as you guys both are blessed to have each other, and it's.
Yep.
Well,
it does.
and-
It takes a team.
And a lot of anything that I've done, inspiration has always come from her. I mean, literally. I mean, it's
In a way of like wanting to provide, or for just you got inspiration
ideas,
for the idea.
ideas and feedback, and I run it past her, and then her response is what I judge whether it's good or not.
Right? I do this. I do the same thing. If I get the eye roll, I'm like, okay, new idea, new idea.
If it's so, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna run with this. If it's just the look like, What are you smoking? I might change my plan and go a different way.
Or I get the how much.
yeah.
How much is this idea going to cost?
That's right.
So Justin and I do a lot of joking on the different family businesses and everything, which we say family businesses, but it's them and we're unpaid employees, free child labor. You know, it is what it is.
But they're of age, so we're safe.
So it's no longer
you're
child
safe
labor.
now. Yeah,
They're
you're good.
not under.
Yeah.
Is it 14?
Right.
So now we're
They're not.
volunteers.
Yeah, no, they're doing it because they want to, right?
That's right. They love us.
Yeah.
But
It's all for the inheritance, by
Right.
the way.
Yeah.
Justin and I joke a lot. Like, mom is she's the one person, marketing department, payroll department, billing department, whatever you want to go, everything except for, and she still does the labor side, but there's only one person department and she's every one person
My
department.
mom's the same way. She does she's the accounting for the business, like everything. Mom's who I go to.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. She's same thing on that.
No, but back to that. So I'm going to back up a little bit.
Go for it. Sorry, we kind of went off on a tangent.
We literally have the best boys. I mean, we truly are super blessed.
I was
And
going to
they
get into that, but you keep going.
Yeah, they are. Growing up, I mean, when they were little, I used to tell everybody our boys were good, like always. Like our friends, they had problems with their boys getting in trouble or their kids getting in trouble, and really, our kids. I'm sure that there was times unbeknownst to me.
I mean, we've been in trouble. I've been
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yeah.
I've made bad decisions. It happens.
But
We all
not,
do.
not until he was 21.
Right.
I
Right.
tell everybody, our
Boy,
boys,
have you fooled your mother. Holy moly.
no, the bad trouble.
Win.
Bad trouble is, yeah. No, I'm not saying they weren't perfect, but
Yeah.
our boys
They
and
have good values.
absolutely,
Work ethic.
absolutely. So and here's a story on Vance. So Vance was like, "Mom, I want to go to town at, I don't know, I think it was like 3:00 on a Saturday, you know, and of course we're working, right? We're always working, doing something." And I'm like, 3:00? What are you going to do at 3:00? And Vance goes, "Mom, you don't understand. All of my friends have been sleeping all morning. They get out of bed at noon, shower. They're already in town doing something fun. I just want to go to town before 7 or 8 o'clock at night." But, you know, so I think there's a big difference the way our kids are raised from a lot of the other kids, because our kids, they worked all the time.
Right.
And maybe we were slave drivers, I guess, but...
I don't say it that way.
You made good kids.
I know a lot of people have, like we've had this conversation on different podcasts about kids growing up and having jobs at like 14, 15. You had a job at a young age. A job
voluntold for that job.
Well,
voluntold.
yeah.
Easier word. Voluntold for that job.
A job was not in the cards for us because we had a farm. We had cattle. On our off days, we were doing something. We weren't working hard.
It was in the family business.
It's not like
it
we
was
were
in
dying.
the family business.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was getting paid at 13, Vance.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's the same concept.
It's the very same concept. Yeah.
Same thing then.
Go wash cars, you little minion.
But the boys did have their own cattle.
Yeah.
And they sold them. They raised them.
Yeah.
They had loans at the bank, so they learned that at an early age,
Which is very
maybe
important.
good, maybe
it's
bad.
Very
but-
important.
Tried to get him to co-sign, but they never got that.
Yeah, a lot of times they had more money in their account than we had in ours.
Exactly, right? I say that about our kids too sometimes. Like,
I have to rub that piggy bank.
But and back to like a Peace Corporation and everything that we did. So, for instance, Justin traveled with Van, and Van had a meeting with the heads of the state of Missouri. So the executive director of the Missouri Cattlemen's and the Missouri
MFA.
governor and the MFA.
The state
The governor
vet.
and the state vet. But the governor was there too, I believe. And Justin, as a young child, I mean, literally sat in on that meeting and experienced that. Not every kid at that age. And
Well, and JT in Denver with you meeting
JT met George Bush.
W.
really?
Yeah, met the president.
You guys
at
have
the
really done
National
some like,
Cattlemen's.
cool shit. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say. You guys have been involved in some cool shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think our kids were exposed to a lot of that. So, and we did a lot of stuff. And the kids were always with us. Like, the kids were always with us.
Yep.
And we, as a family, we always traveled for work, but the kids were with us a lot. To the point that I think they were more comfortable with us and our peers than they were going out
We
finding
used to
their
tell them
own.
at the state fair,
Can you just go
can you
find
just go
somebody
find
your
kids
age?
your own age?
Get away.
Leave us adults alone here. We have some beverages,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But no, our
No.
And our peers. I mean, we would get crazy compliments on our children and
But a lot of
our
people, though,
boys,
they
how
didn't take their
were.
kids. We
Yeah.
took everywhere we went, our kids went with us.
Right.
I mean,
If I went,
I like that though.
they, you know, the boys
Because when
were
Dad
with
was
us
on
too.
the road, he just hung out with his salesman buddies.
Yeah.
They'd go hang out at the bar, go just,
Yeah.
Oh,
just
yeah.
It's the same way with me.
go to a
prime,
nice
prime,
kid's
rib,
house.
prime rib every night, you know.
Yeah, the kids only
drank
come with
champagne.
The kids
Oh,
only
yeah.
come with us if Kai comes too. So I'm not taking the. I'd take Christian.
Yeah,
He'd be
he's
fine.
old enough now.
But I wouldn't take. Ain't no way I'm taking Declan on a business trip.
Now, the only reason we're still married is one time early on, Kathy.
Just had to start it that way.
Kathy said,
Holy reason.
she goes, I'm leaving you. And by God, I'm not taking the kids. And I said, like hell, if you're going to leave, you're going to take the kids. And she's still here.
We used to say that to each other all the time. I'm
That is
great.
great.
And not only do you get the kids, but you get all the bills.
Yeah, the bills too. Yeah, that's funny.
Bills and the kids are yours. No, honey, the bills and the kids are yours.
I do want to say I don't know the other two boys as much as I know Vance, obviously, but you guys did raise, at least on him, a good man, good kid.
Well, there you go, Vance. You got one guy.
When
I've heard that from. One guy.
Well, I'm the same way. So we both kind of keep very small circles of friends, and him and I have always gone. We've known each other for a long time and have gone, in dips and ways. And I went one way, he went another, and we're back here doing a podcast. And I told him the other day, and I thought he was going to maybe shed a tear, but I just told him, I said, you're the only guy I could ever do this with, because we can literally go out, have a few drinks, maybe even get into an argument, and then the next time we see each other,
Yeah.
it's right back where we were, which is the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't have, I'm going to sound really bad, I don't have like any other friends that are that way. They'll ghost me
They
for
hold
2
a
months. Yeah, they hold a
grudge.
grudge. And it's
No.
like, no, we're not going to, I don't like that. So I told him that the other day, I was like, you're the only guy I could ever do this podcast with.
Cool.
Ever.
That's cool.
That's because our boys are raised and they're yelled at constantly. We still have
It's something. I don't
By
know.
the way, they yell back now. Just don't, I mean,
Does he?
No.
more
Never.
respect tonight.
We
Never
argue a
once.
lot.
Received more respect tonight from him than ever. I'm just going to go with
That's
ever.
only because there's a mic in
I
front
know.
of him. Yeah. That's when I let you guys know he's yeah.
Well, we're
I don't-
pretty
I
proud
don't-
of him.
This wasn't about me, but anyways, we're gonna
We made
stop
it about
talking
you.
about
We're
me.
going to make him uncomfortable.
We already did.
Yeah. Good.
It already happened.
Part of that, it comes from in both of you, obviously raising us as kids. But I did hear I've listened to one of my favorite speeches I've ever heard is a guy that I don't even know what he's got 4 degrees, but his dad was a 3rd grade dropout, and he talks about that speech is at a commencement speech, and he said the wisest person he ever met was the 3rd grade dropout, and he talks about his work ethic and everything. And one of the things that his dad had told him is make sure your servant's towel is larger than your ego. And I've always felt that with you guys. And as much as I hate, I don't hate. I get frustrated with constantly having to volunteer, and I get frustrated, and not really. It's hard to, and that sounds terrible, but I don't like seeing. Actually, more on your side, Mom. I can see. I always watch you, and it's my whole life. You put everything on the line for whoever it is. It doesn't matter who it is. You're going to help them. You volunteer more than anything. and you'll put your needs and your health and everything. I've always noticed you're on the back burner to everything else. And I've always respected that about you, and that's obviously made a huge impact in my life. So
I never knew you noticed that.
He talks about it all the time.
Making me tear up.
Actually,
I just kind of wanted to make sure that was said, but it is known and seen. And Dad wouldn't be able to do what he can do. I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Justin wouldn't be able to do what he does. JT wouldn't be able to do what he does without you. So
True.
you know that.
Very true.
Wow. Thank you.
that's what it's called, the queen,
It is
of the house.
a family effort. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's a complete family effort in everything that we do.
It is, but as I go back to it and talking about my wife, is if the mold wouldn't have stayed, there would have been no central unit,
Right.
probably without you. So
Yep.
Well,
just from the stories I've
I
heard,
guess I'm going to have to start being a little better then.
Yeah.
Hey, I like that.
It's about time you figure it out.
you don't got to be better than him. You just got
This night was worth it now.
Guys are
Can I have a
just
tape of
talking
that part?
about-
Just that
You
part.
can, I can cut that for you, Van. I can cut that for you.
Are we about done, or do we want to do
it's-
that last thing? and
Is
see
there
what they
is
said?
there anything else that you guys haven't covered yet that you maybe want? Yeah, we can take a break. Yeah, we can take a little quick break.
All right, we're back. We needed one more break. This is a long one.
That's a long one.
We're going to play a little video for you. Dr. Sean Baker, he's a big proponent of a carnivore diet, huge on meat. We're obviously beef producers. Was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and this was just brought to my attention by Zach yesterday. And he gets really into, he went to the beef checkoff to try to get use some of the money that the beef checkoff doles out to do some medical research on seeing what beef can actually do to help you healthily. And I want to get your opinion on the type of response he got from the beef checkoff.
Guys to the beef checkoff, and I said, hey, look, we want to spend a little bit of money to do a study on beef versus diabetes, because we know the results are going to be. The people are they're going to go on an all meat diet or a close to all meat diet, and their diabetes is going to go away. It's simple, and it takes all the confusion out. Because whenever you do you hear all these dietary studies, it's like, oh, but he was eating hamburgers and French fries, and there's all this confounder. So it's like you can't really test it. I'm like, the perfect way to test if meat is healthy or not is to just put them on a damn carnivore diet and see what happens.
It's the only way to test it. 'Cause if you do
yeah.
an epidemiology study and you don't account for sugary drink, Coca-Cola, bread, pasta, lasagna.
Yeah, that's what Harvard did recently. They didn't account for sugar intake when they said beef causes diabetes. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You're not even counting sugar.
That's so crazy.
Right, but they get this published, and this is really bad science, And guys like John Anitis, who's one of the most cited scientists in the world, has basically said all this epidemiology we're doing, we're just wasting money. It's not telling us anything. This is all garbage. But they keep doing it over and over again because they generate headlines. The headlines they want. But anyway, back to this beef checkoff thing. So I said, hey, look, every year you award money, hundreds of thousands, tens of millions of dollars to promote beef. I said, let's get a little bit of money to do a research study on diabetes. And they literally said, no, we're not interested in doing that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The beef industry is taking a beating right now. You listen to it, it's like, everybody wants to get rid of beef. The cow farts are boiling the oceans, and it's going to kill you. It's going to give you cancer. Which all of it is largely nonsense. And this is in my view, this type of study would clearly demonstrate that not only does beef not cause diabetes. In fact, I talked to the CEO of the NCBA 2 years ago. I sat down. I presented in front of the California Cattlemen's Association, and literally the president of the association stood up and said, I went on a carnivore diet and cured my diabetes. And it's like, yeah, it's clear. And the guy said, yeah, I get it. We're going to help you out. We're going to get this going. I heard nothing from these guys. So what I think's going on is the USDA kind of oversees all these checkoffs. And they just kind of say, look, you can't say that because we want to promote, because again, they have all these processed food lobbies, Nabisco and PepsiCo sitting on they're on the board. And they're like, if we promote this one food and people stop eating all this processed food, right? Then what are we going to do? We're going to lose a lot of money. You think about it, not that I'm advocating that everybody go on a carnivore diet, because I don't think it's necessary for one, but if you significantly cut back on all these people consuming all this garbage. You know, what does that do economically to this country? I mean, you think about it.
So basically what I wanted to get from you guys is when he talks about the USDA, and he earlier in the podcast, he talked about how all these CEOs from Nabisco, all these other, companies end up on the USDA board. So they're obviously going to fight for those companies at some point.
When the beef checkoff is specifically made for beef.
To market.
And we pay
beef.
that. You as a producer
right.
pays to the beef checkoff.
So it should be marketing for you, correct?
Correct.
So
Correct.
why do you think when he went to go do this to promote beef, and he knew what the results of this test was going to be? He said it in the interview. Why would they stop him from doing that? Why would they say no?
Politics.
Okay.
How do we fix that in the beef industry?
Until somebody curtails the 80+% monopolistic control of 3 major packers.
He goes into the Packers too, because he said they fought it as well.
Well, of course, they're 2 of them are foreign owned.
Right.
Well, 4 of the 5 are foreign owned. 4 of the 5 largest meat packers in the world are foreign owned.
Yeah, but the 2 of the 3 biggest are foreign owned, and they're public. I mean, I'll paraphrase it by saying,
you don't have to paraphrase. You say whatever you want.
Do you think members of Congress own shares in Pfizer after COVID?
Absolutely.
Well,
owned them before.
Do you think members of Congress own shares in Tyson, in Swift?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, it's politics. And until the average voter of this country figures out that until this country gets statesmen again versus politicians, nothing's going to change.
Which the Senate initially, the Senate was supposed to be not populist voted. The Senate was actually delegated by the state legislature. You vote on your state legislatures, and then they delegate the Senate. And ever since they changed that, and then the Senate became populist, I think that is completely screwed up and even more.
Okay, well, just imagine today if the Nebraska legislature, controlled by Lincoln and Omaha, were to pick our senators.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but there's another side to it also.
There is. I just don't understand how. So,
but that's not exactly that way. In Nebraska, it's that way.
In Nebraska.
In other states, it's going to be better.
I don't know.
I could see it being better. I think
Harvey might have been right with his comment. Geographically, we're agriculture. Demographically, we're not. There's a lot of states like that.
It's starting to lean like that, and obviously we don't like that.
No.
No, none of us do.
So my question for you is, so Joe Rogan podcast is obviously a huge thing, way bigger than ours. And this kind of stuff is on there. How do you, and many people listen to this, how do we get something like this to be a big thing? Like, I think this is a huge deal, in my opinion.
I mean, I watched Joe Rogan all the time. I have not watched his episode until you brought it up to me, and then I listened to it.
It's kind of like NFR is going on right now in Vegas, right? Do you know what their number 1 advertiser is?
Pfizer, probably?
The National Beef Checkoff.
Oh.
At the end of the day, is that...
What does that have to do
What does that have
with?
anything to do with beef?
Well, I mean, they're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have
I want
them spend money
NASCAR
on
to be the number... I want Beef Checkoff to be the number 1 supporter of NASCAR.
Right.
Or the Super Bowl.
NBA.
Or spend the money on the Super Bowl.
NFL. But
Yeah.
NFR? Seriously?
Right.
It's our own group.
I didn't understand. So Vance explained a little bit of what the checkoff was to me. Obviously, he explained it I had no idea. I didn't know for sure what it was. So I'm kind of green on this.
It's $1 per head every single time it changes hands.
That's what he said.
And it's supposed to be, like the beef, it's what's for dinner, comes from the beef checkoff. Like,
Correct.
It's just supposed to
So
promote eating meat.
Right. It just,
when the mad cow hit,
yep.
the beef checkoff dollars were used to combat that and educate
Okay,
public on that.
So tell me this: if that happened right now, would they do the same thing?
Absolutely.
They would.
They would. Would they be
yes.
effective? Is the question you need to ask.
That's what I'm asking. You think they would still try to combat a problem now after
see.
doing something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
I see what
I believe that.
You do? Okay.
Yes, I believe that.
I
You
disagree.
don't?
I disagree
I agree
too.
they would. No, I definitely think they would absolutely attempt to combat it. My point is
They use the wrong medium now
the success rate would not be as good as
because
Okay.
they're still in the past. This guy is a proponent of eating just beef.
Red meat.
The beef
Red meat.
checkoff is about eating beef, and you're not going to work with him. It makes no sense to me.
To promote
that
curing
one I
a
don't
disease?
Well, so NCBA is easily beat up all the time in terms of the beef checkoff. The Cattlemen's Beef Board is quote unquote the group that supposedly controls 100% of the beef checkoff. Unfortunately, NCBA, because it is the de facto standard of the representative of the beef industry, it's recognized as that. I'm not going to go so far as to say that it is. I'm going to say it is recognized as it. They have the chair at the table in Washington, D.C. Do they represent Kathy and I and Vance and Justin and JT? Predominantly, I'm going to say no. They
Let's
don't.
say 40%.
I'd probably say 25.
Oh, okay.
20. And again, I'm not going to beat them up and say that there's a conspiracy. I'm just saying the way the whole thing shakes out, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
20%.
It goes
maybe.
back into what you talked about with the boards.
Yep.
It's the same exact thing
Absolutely.
on boards.
Yeah.
Boards and committees and everything like that.
But not only that, the bigger dog's always going to get the ear.
Yeah.
Always going to get the ear. We're a small voice, right? But the Packers are a big voice.
But you're
in
a very
that.
knowledgeable
they're-
voice. That's what I don't understand. Why not listen to a knowledgeable person in the industry?
Follow the money.
So I believe this is kind of where I'm going at in this and what I see from it. And I kind of want more people to hear, and I hope people hear it on this podcast. And why I really wanted to bring it up.
Well, we're
is
going to push this one a lot. So
I want to hear this because I want people to hear this because times have changed where we didn't have a voice. Our normal rancher didn't have a voice unless he went to the NCBA convention.
Correct.
And he's got to lobby the board and the president and blah, blah, blah. Now we all have our own podcast. Anybody can put a podcast out. All you got to do is if you speak to 20 people, if I speak to 20 people,
And they
20
speak to
people
20.
speak to 20
it's
people.
not that difficult to do.
30
That. I mean,
people
this
speak
was
to
not
30
that
people.
hard.
No, it was
To be
super-
honest.
and that's kind of where I want to get about on the ag industry and the beef industry is maybe we need more people to have these conversations and stop being and don't be afraid to. And
So,
Well, and that's part of what Exceptional was about,
Yeah.
of educating those women because let's face it, I am more likely to sit down and have a conversation with a total stranger about beef or agriculture than Van.
Yeah.
you
know,
absolutely.
And
you
if
are.
I'm educated,
That's
the more
100%. Yeah.
the more educated I am, the better off I am at being an advocate for not only the beef industry, but possibly the pork industry, chicken. Because again, when one of us is attacked, like when they attack the pork, I mean, I love my bacon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But beef is more important to me. That's my livelihood.
Right.
But if they're going to attack the pork industry, it's just a matter of time before they turn around and attack the beef industry.
Right.
So we as agricultural group need to stand up for each other.
well, in the last,
protect
let's
each
just
other.
take, for instance, the last 30 to 45 days, they've decimated the beef market. And they're working diligently every day to do the same thing over and over and over.
Well, Tyson just came out putting a whole bunch of money into insect protein.
Right. And on Monday, the report was the Packers are losing $31 a head. Who gives a shit?
Right.
I mean,
Gosh,
at the end of the
darn it.
day, for 3 years prior to that, they gave reports that were very lightly reported on their billions
Right.
of dollars of quarterly profit.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, oh my God, we got to worry about $31 a head.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Right.
I could care
What
less
about the
a
producer that has lost that for the last 30 years?
I will
Right.
never,
Right.
ever be concerned about a Packer. I was thinking today, even had no thought about this tonight, but the thought I had today, for whatever reason, and I don't want to go into more detail because it was just a fleeting thought, but I thought to myself at the time, I don't know why I thought of it, but I thought, publicly traded companies literally are the single biggest problem financially in this country.
Agreed.
Because remember what I said earlier, no board ever spends their own money.
Yep.
No publicly traded company, there is no individual in there responsible.
Yep.
Period.
Take.
Yep.
Nobody gives a damn.
Yep.
I want my pay, and if I get fired, well, I'll go to the next one.
Yep.
And there's no personal responsibility. There's no
Legal responsibility either.
legal responsibility. And all of a sudden, the Packers are only attempting to appease their shareholders because, oh my gosh, we're losing $31 a head.
They're Tyson. I'm going to beat up on Tyson because I think Tyson.
Do it.
You guys were dealt with. You called the Antichrist. Tyson is one of the Antichrists. Tyson only gives a shit about dear leader China. They don't care about anything but China.
Tyson only cares about
China,
their profit.
Yeah.
which is China.
Okay, but
I mean,
at the end of the day, they
the
only,
money goes to China.
Yeah.
The other thing that he said too was that, and I'm sure you guys already know this, so I'm not like telling you guys something you don't know, but the leader, like the cattle, the country that has the most cattle is, and I would have thought it was the USA.
No.
Do you know which one it is?
It's either Brazil or India.
It's India.
Yeah.
And it's astronomically higher than here.
Because they're worshipped in India.
Yeah. But they're killing them. They're killing more there too.
But it's not.
They're killing more than they're killing here.
Well, they can't all live. I mean, somebody's got to
but
die.
They eventually die. But it's not the same beef.
It's
not the good beef.
I know it's not the same beef, but I'm saying they're killing as many, exporting it.
Yes.
They're exporting
absolutely
more than we are.
Brazil is known, absolutely, unequivocally, unchallenged to have foot and mouth.
Yeah.
And yet, this country, the United States of America,
Takes their beef.
Allows fresh beef, not frozen, not tested, fresh beef to be brought into this country.
Yeah.
And the consumers are worried, oh my gosh, we have to eat lab-grown meat or we have to eat insects because red meat's bad for you.
Go buy from your local farmer. Go buy from your local rancher. Go.
Well, that's a great. It's a great theory, but
not a theory. We pushed.
Okay,
oh, sorry.
So where he's going to get into a whole nother.
I agree.
It's
with
not.
you. I agree.
Yes,
with you.
do that, but it's not that easy because of
I know
the
it's
packing.
not that. I get
but
that.
we're going back to the packing side of it and the government side of it.
Yeah.
So you get some of these small butcher shops during COVID. They tried to build up, but USDA comes in and shuts them down. Well, you're not certified for this. You got to do this.
Well, then we got to go after that then, because I'm going to keep pushing it on this podcast that you have to buy local.
Okay, there's
stuff.
a plant in Mullen, Nebraska that was built large for Mullen, Nebraska, very large plant. USDA has not ever allowed an employee to inspect it. Their
and you
answer.
think the Packers have pull?
Yeah. USDA says, "Oh, we don't have enough employees." And
take one of those 67,000 IRS agents and figure out how to train them.
And so at the end of the day, they're done. I mean, you and I both say, "Oh no, you got to."
I know
they got nothing, and no one, including the fallacy of the beef producer Deb Fisher, no one does anything. No one does nothing.
Yeah. Well, then I guess we're gonna have to start. I don't know.
I heard what you said.
I know you are. I
wanted you to hear the other side, like the reason that's not happening.
I figured there was a reason. Yeah. I figured there was a reason why things couldn't be done the way that I would like them to be done.
Oh, the
But we do have
intelligent way.
We have good people out there. We have.
Hey, we got 400 listeners to this podcast.
You want to have a great guest on your podcast. Let's
write them down.
You need to interview Kristi Noem.
Okay, let's do it.
And you need to ask her to talk candidly about her first 2 weeks as being a U.S. Senator.
That's going to be the problem, right? So getting somebody
She'll
like that.
answer it if you can get her here.
That's what I mean. Just getting people to talk candidly is the issue that we've run into. I've had people turn down to come on for whatever reason they wanted to. Only been a couple of them, but I'd say we're gonna sit here, we're gonna talk, it's gonna be genuine, it's gonna be open. We're gonna hit the pause button, we're gonna cough, we're gonna open beers and have a conversation. But I think I've said it almost in every podcast when we've talked about health, fitness, anything else. Buy your beef, buy your meat locally.
Yeah, you have said.
And by the way, Kathy and I were
time.
very reluctant to come in here. If it wasn't for Vance, we wouldn't have voiced our opinion.
I'm sure.
We're not used to voicing our opinion in public
at all.
No.
Never. Yeah. I can't even recollect once in the podcast he said that he's never.
I fear what
spoke
people
out
will
loud.
think of me.
There wasn't even a mic that was shut off, and he kept talking. God, you need to talk more, Van. You really do. So I just wanted to bring that up because I obviously it hit me when I heard it.
Hit me too. Once you brought it up to me, it really bothered me more than it. I mean, it really bothered me, and I look at it. So we're doing this podcast space. I've listened to Joe. I don't love everything Joe Rogan stands for. I don't agree with him on everything. And there's a lot of people I don't agree in. But every once in a while he'll get these it seems like celebrity beef producers or cattle guys, and they don't really stand up to Joe. And that's kind of the one thing. Like, Joe's got he's the number one podcaster in the United States. He's got the most listens. He's got a huge platform. And I kind of this is the first time I've heard somebody explain and really go into what is really hurting it's the beef industry from within, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Like they're hurting themselves from within. Like, and that's the first time I've really ever heard that expressed on Joe Rogan. And that's kind of why I really wanted to get that out.
So I will say one thing here if we're closing off here pretty quick.
But we got about 10. I still have some more questions for you, but we might not be able to get into them.
I'm going to say real quickly here that my takeaway from tonight is much more than what you may expect. Because my biggest anger, my biggest problem in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years is the news media.
I completely agree with
and
that.
And the liberal control of the news media. However, I find this and these, I don't care if it's 10, like you said, 20 people here, 20 people there. This is something that is not controlled.
Can't be.
And there's lots and lots and lots of these going on, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something that might surprise you, especially listening to Vance. So I'm going on almost 4 years that I would honestly say in 4 years I have not listened or watched a total of an hour of any national news.
Same way.
Local or national.
We get most of our stuff off of Twitter, really short, really quick from people that we
I
trust.
refuse to. I don't read newspapers.
Yeah.
I'm sick of
either.
it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of ABC, NBC, CBS.
I hear you.
I won't even go into the other bullshit.
Yep.
I don't listen to them. I don't care.
Yep.
I don't need it. I think sometimes that's maybe wrong.
It's not wrong.
Then I see this and I start and I've heard about him. I've watched listened to a few of his deals.
You're not going to like everything.
No, but at the end of the day, it's not controlled.
Right.
That's a good thing.
And we're on so many platforms.
Nothing bad is going to come from this. That's what I'm saying.
And we're on so many platforms that if one takes us off for whatever reason, there's so many other places we can put it. Yeah. It's
and I want to encourage people to have more conversations, whether it's on a podcast or it's just sitting and having a conversation with somebody and speaking out and just Stop being afraid of being canceled. Stop being afraid of, I mean,
Well, let's face it.
Stop being afraid of saying what you want
you
to
believe.
say.
There's even a
what
couple.
you believe. Just because I believe it doesn't mean you should have to believe it, although I think you should, right?
But also,
we say that all the time.
But you can research it yourself. I mean, there might be a piece of the information that I gave you that you're going to be like,
it's crazy how
oh, maybe I should look
and
at
if
that.
somebody
we say
says
that all the
something-
time. Just piece it together.
And if somebody says something you don't believe, don't just out of hand, just say, no, you're crackpot. You're worthless. I don't want to hear it. At least listen to it. And then you can make your decision after that. At least people need to listen more than just not listen.
Yeah. There's certain people even in your family that you don't need to do that.
Well, we appreciate listening to our podcast. I know your son's on it, but I think
So like all of our listeners, they're just like have 150 accounts each.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep downloading them.
I never
I actually
thought.
had to go get a new phone last night.
Yeah,
so I
I know.
have two now.
Yeah. I didn't. We talked about this last night with Adam that I never thought we'd even be where we are now. It happened very quickly, and we're getting, every time we get somebody on, we get more and more listeners, and we're getting more and more feedback too. And it's all been good. And people have said the same thing you said, is that I hate listening to the media, but God, what you guys talk about, I feel like there's still hope for the country.
Yeah. Right.
I do. I mean,
I've had two or
But
three.
isn't that sad? I mean,
It's very sad.
It's very sad and very scary.
Especially around our
very
listeners
scary.
are around here. So it's people around here that are worried.
Yeah.
And we're in a pretty insulated area.
Yeah.
To where we're not in a complete meltdown city.
yeah,
yet.
we still have a few of them goddamn Democrats around.
Oh, they're gonna be here.
We got to deal with them.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna get in real quick. I'm gonna ask two real quick questions. I'm gonna put them together, and if we go over, we go over. I'm not worried about it. So with an election year coming up, I asked this question to everybody that's been on the podcast. With an election year coming up, how do you feel about where the state of the country is right now, and do you feel that we are being well represented at the federal and state levels? And do you feel that the two-party system that are in place right now is still where we need to be?
No, and no.
Elaborate.
That was simple.
Okay,
we're done.
All right, we'll see ya. Bye.
No, I mean, I think we're in trouble as a country. I truly believe that. And we just talked about the news and nobody listening to the news. And think about even the last election or the previous election to that. People just didn't know what was going on. They see the little bits or pieces and then they think, oh, okay, well, we definitely need a black president, right? Yeah, let's do it. I have no idea what he's doing, but the world is telling me this is what we need and this is what we should do. Without doing the research and without knowing the repercussions.
No research, right? No
research. Yeah. I've just been told, well, he's black. Yes, we need a black president. Oh, okay.
Because it's the cool thing to do, right?
Which we've had
I
other
think there
black.
was a lot of people that voted because
Which is also
of
why
that.
I think Hillary got so many votes.
Exactly. There's
Oh, we need a woman.
Yep. I believe that. And no, we need somebody, and I don't care what they do. I don't care what they look like. Can they do the job?
Yeah.
Are they going to look out for me?
But I will tell you that everybody in this room gets a misconception that we hate certain people or whatever. That's not the case.
No.
No.
We say this all the time. Give me a good candidate, and I'll get
I'll
right
back
behind them.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely. All day long.
All day long.
long.
So
exactly.
I'll answer the question with a statement that I truly believe that we are very, very close, and I'm talking in terms of months now.
Yep.
Not weeks or days, but probably not multiple years. We are within months of the saying, good men are going to do bad things.
Yeah.
I do believe that. Second thing I believe is I don't think the problem is the two parties. I don't believe that at all.
I'll explain that in a second. But
I believe the
my feelings of
problem
it.
is the corruption
in both parties.
Yeah.
Period. The corruption.
Yeah.
Period.
We talk a lot on our podcast about the uniparty on both podcasts.
And
It's the same thing.
Until and here's something I many years ago I stopped this. I've never made any comment about it. This will be the first time I've ever publicly said this.
Awesome. We love first timers.
Breaking news.
I do not ever refer to anyone as an elected official. There ain't nothing official about them.
Yeah.
They're elected representatives.
Right.
And I will, if ever given the chance publicly, hear a politician say, I'm your elected official. Bullshit. You are the elected representative. You are not the official.
Right.
You are not an official.
You represent your.
You represent your constituents who voted you.
I love that.
And you represent
Me.
maybe 51% of them. But
Maybe.
you still have you're still representing the 49 that didn't vote for you.
Correct.
But you are definitely not their official. Absolutely not
no.
their
You are
official.
no one's
Yeah.
official.
Yeah.
You
But
are
I mean,
simply a representative.
it's even worse on the other side. You're
And until politicians are, again, you heard what I said earlier, we don't have any statesmen.
Yeah, exactly.
This country,
And I like that word. We don't use that.
1776 happened because of statesmen, not politicians.
because they risked. They didn't only risk their lives; they risked their
Everything.
their fortune, their family. They literally risked their
and-
families.
Good
So-
men did bad things.
Right. And you say, you go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to go back to the fact where Van got accused of
Yep.
Volunteering
taking it-
too much.
Yeah.
And that goes to
And taking
that
advantage
quote
in
that
their
I
must-
said
Yeah,
about
that-
make sure your servant towel is larger than your ego. Like,
Right.
there's not very many people in the world that you could say that about.
But so we need more people like Van to be politicians.
I agree.
But people like Van, and he says that all the time.
Don't wanna
I
be
am
one.
I'm
the most unelected.
unelectable.
I'm the most
Yeah.
unelectable person
Because
you'll ever
he's
meet.
going to tell you exactly what he
Hey, but
what
win
he
them by
thinks.
one
And
vote, right?
he's not.
Landslide.
He's not going to worry about hurting your feelings, and he is not here to make a friend.
We had customers buy a
is.
bull that had the bull's name changed to Landslide.
But I get what you're saying.
Right. So in the politician world, there's not people like that.
Yeah.
And I actually represented a guy and got him elected in our area, like for real.
Yeah.
And
I did
suckered
it.
us all into it.
I suckered a lot of voluntold them
she
into
got
it.
me. She got me to vote
I got
for
a
And
lot
by
somebody.
the
of
way,
people.
that piece of crap's name was Ben Sass. That's his initials.
This
But anyway, his first name starts with Ben and his last name starts with
Oh goodness.
But he had a good
Hoodwinked
story.
everybody.
But he did. He had a good story,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if
He was going to go in
if
and
he-
fight Obamacare.
If he would have and not just that. I mean, he was going to fight the corruption. He
Got
was
bought
going
off
to drain
quick.
the swamp before Trump was going to drain
Yeah,
the
and
swamp.
then-
Well, let's
And
let's.
that did
If we're going to
not-
say that, we're going to talk about
It's everybody.
Well, we're going to
No,
talk about
everybody gets
Ricketts.
in
We're going
there.
to talk about Fisher. We're going to talk about
but
what's
everybody gets in there, and then they.
what's her name?
We talked about this with Abe, right?
Yeah.
About how quickly.
Yeah, how quickly it changed. So Abe obviously worked for Mike, and on his podcast he kind of talked about like he's seen some good things, blah blah blah, and he said, "I'm just hoping that it doesn't change." He didn't say it wasn't going to change, but he said, "I hope he doesn't
Genuinely,
change."
Mike Flood's a good guy.
Yes,
I think genuinely. I think he's so anxious
to do good.
that I fear he's
Not effective.
not
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah.
And he's not going to rock the boat because he knows enough about politics to know that you don't get anywhere rocking the boat.
He's a politician, and that's the problem with
That's the
saying
problem.
somebody is a politician.
But then again, you have to worry about whether or not. So if he truly is a good guy and he's truly representing us to the best of his abilities, do we really want him to rock the boat and then get ousted? And then we risk
It's a
who
conundrum.
the next guy is going to be.
I look at it
And
as
so it's
you
really
said that the other day.
tough.
about the next guy.
Yeah.
We're always ruining the next guy.
Yeah. We were talking about the infighting on the.
We'll learn how to get rid of Jessica's.
Well, yeah.
Literally. You get rid of Jessica's.
I agree with you.
And things change.
I was going to bring up
She's
infighting.
evil.
You brought it up, the infighting.
Yeah.
But I bring this up every podcast.
He talks about it all the time, and I kind of talked about like we're ruining future leaders
Because they don't want to be in.
They don't want to get
Why
involved.
would they want to do?
Or
Why would you want to
their
put yourself out
reputation is
there?
tarnished because their own party
We'll
ruined them.
destroy them.
I've talked about a lot on our podcast different times. Is that may be one thing, but I mean we're all here. We don't answer to each other. In my opinion, I feel like you have something to answer for when you're gone, whatever you believe. But like, if you don't go with what you believe and you just go because it's easier, I don't think that is going. That's not a legitimate answer in my opinion. That's not a good argument at the end. Be like, well, I only did that because I went along because everybody else was doing it, and it's just easier.
Nothing good is easy. And I'm going to go back to what you said about good people doing bad things.
You don't mean bad. He means bad things.
No, I know what he meant. I'm just going to go back to it because I'm going to bring us up in this.
Oh.
Because he's not talking about bad things in the way you're probably listening to it. But us doing this podcast and our other podcast put both of us in a spot of doing bad things.
Absolutely.
At risk of angering somebody, and I had what you're saying.
Yeah. And with me having a business and under an umbrella of Farm Bureau, it was a risk for me to take. Whether the company is going to come back on me or the community's not going to like. And I told Vance when I did it, I was like, I don't care. I'm willing to risk whatever I need to risk to make sure people can hear things like we just talked about with the checkoff, what you guys have talked about this whole podcast. What we talk about on useless assumptions. It's very important to me. Finally, it took me, we're almost to 2024. I was starting to think about this in 2020 when COVID was hitting. I'm like, I need to speak on this stuff, but I don't know how to do it. I didn't want to be like the guy that was like, you need to do, whatever. I wanted to do it the right way. And I think we finally got to the point of doing it the right way.
By the way, it was just past Broken Bridge on the way in here before I realized we were not on useless assumptions.
Yeah.
kind of broke my heart actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
I did tell our friend we had
I was
him
a
on
little
speaker.
I was a little looking forward to useless assumptions.
We'll bring you on useless assumptions.
I actually
promise you, we can bring you on that one.
Then you can really then you can do whatever the hell you want.
Then I can be honest.
You can do whatever the hell you want.
So Vance, we were talking to Larry Grand on the way in, and he was asking, and I was telling him, well, they have two different podcasts, and one is Useless Assumptions, and the other is Touching Base. But imagine that, Larry. We are not on the Useless Assumptions one. I feel like that's the one we should
And
be
I didn't
on.
know it until that time. I was like,
funny.
well, what the hell
That's
are we
funny.
I
going
feel
for?
like that's the one we should be on. I feel that's more fitting for Van and Kathy. But
Hey, we can totally bring you guys on because we could extend this the political conversation with you guys. Yeah.
Assumptions.
That's really nice of you to say, but you're trying to build this up, and I think tonight is going to be enough.
Are you saying you didn't enjoy yourself?
I'm saying don't tempt fate.
Your listeners might not be enjoying themselves. I think that's what he's saying.
You would actually be very surprised about how many listeners are going to enjoy this podcast. Not only because of how much we've enjoyed ourselves, laughing, having a good time. People genuinely enjoy this. We don't have 400 listeners for no reason. And we wanted to bring you, I'm just saying, we wanted to bring you guys on this.
Each of your kids aren't listening.
We're knocking on the door of 1 million. We're knocking on the door of 1 million.
Kathy just
getting
knocked us
close.
down.
Kathy,
It's
I
getting
actually,
close.
just
I actually
knocked
thought
us
there was
down.
more
I
than
heard
400 people that were bored.
I told you I don't know if we really want them.
I gave them so many compliments saying they raised such a good kid, and then now they do this to me.
Listen, you got all the buttons in front of you. You could have hit them a long time ago.
And this is really exciting for you guys because I have 2 friends, and I'm pretty sure Van could probably scrounge up 3.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's 405.
Well, I only know one so far, but he might be one of the 400 already.
Hey, as long as we get one more listener, we're good.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to promote the hell out of it on our Facebook.
I appreciate it. We'll tag you in it.
Most people that know me are not going to listen, but I'm going to promote
That's
the hell
okay.
out of it.
That's okay. Just tell them to turn it on for a second.
Just get
Shut
that
it
down.
off.
That's your count.
That's all we need. That's
And
all
then go
we need.
turn it on their computer, and then their wife's cell phone.
On your 3 cell phones, just go ahead and one boom, 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 boom.
Your business phone,
Yeah.
your personal
your flip
phone.
phone. Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, we definitely really appreciate this. I think it's about time to call this.
Yeah, I think we're laughing too much. It's probably time to
we're
cut
good.
it off. Yeah.
I'm excited to have you 2 on. Obviously, meant a lot to me to have you 2 on as a guest and being my parents. And I'm glad you were here. And obviously, you guys have been a huge impact in my life and a good role models. So,
Well, it was a proud mom and dad moment.
thank you.
We appreciate that. We will see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah.